All right, King Killers, we're covering chapters 4 through 6 in this episode. We're going to discuss how Kvothe returns back to his routine at the university. He's going to meet back up with Auri, and he has a legendary performance at the Eolian. We're also going to talk about the majestic nature of hair in this world, dive deep into how cool Kellen McBigJawMoneyPants is, and we'll come up with an ironclad theory for how Bast leaves the Fae. So sit back and enjoy.
Welcome back, Killers, to the absolute and utmost killer broadcast, King Killer Podcast. Tonight, I, once again, Sugar Tits Fitz, am joined by Double D Dan and Itty Bitty Titty Committee Tim. How's it going, guys?
Feeling good, man. Well,
yeah.
Fucking plump. Yeah. Back hurts a little bit.
Plump?
Yeah. He's called me Double D, man. Follow along, Tim.
Yeah,
my back hurts. Plump.
Plump seems an odd thing to say when,
Plush.
I don't know.
Velvety.
Yeah, still seems like strange.
A plump, righteous set, velvet. Tim, A plump, righteous set,
I like to be draped in velvet. Why are you fucking fact-checking me right off the fucking beginning? Questioning my terminology.
It seems an odd thing to say. Like, I'm plump? You gain a bunch of weight?
No.
Just laying back?
What do you think double D's refer to?
Oh.
Yeah,
I thought he
you're
meant double...
itty bitty titty, and he called me double D.
My mind immediately went to the double dong because I just listened to that episode.
Jesus, dude, you're so fucking slow. You're so slow.
I don't think it's slow. It's I just listened to that episode, so that's
my back hurts. Like you're not catching any of this shit.
Yeah, I guess maybe more coffee. Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. But I'm with you now. I'm okay now.
Stay with us.
Well, yeah. I'm glad that you made me explain it because the jokes are always better that way.
True.
Yeah. They are.
So you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
You are very welcome.
I'm sure our audience is just like cracking up right now.
Oh yeah, having fucking crushing it right off the bat. They're fucking super stoked.
Tits.
Not the strongest of openings, but that's why it's interesting because you don't want everyone to be strong. You want certain ones to be kind of middle of the road, and then other ones,
Yeah, we can't. Yeah. We can't all be winners.
Yeah, Tim. Usually, if you can just when we come in on these podcasts, try to flatten everything right off the bat. Just see what you can do. Just
trying to bring that
like your flat chest, itty bitty titty Tim.
What's the I'm trying to bring that cooler, the casino cooler. Trying to bring that energy when I come in. Like, hey guys, what's going on?
Do you guys want to talk about a book?
Do you guys want to talk about some bridges? What are we doing? State capitals?
Well, I mean, this just keeps getting better and better.
Interstate commerce.
Let's just keep going. Just keep doing this.
We could start over. Just try it over again and see what happens.
Yeah, it's like kids, man. Like I said, not all of them can be winners. Some of them come out a little wonky.
Okay. All right.
Right out. They come out right out wonky. It happens. Chapter 4, Tar and Tin. In this chapter, Kvothe starts off explaining how students can make money by creating different goods and selling them to merchants. Kvothe is pretty broke with admissions approaching, so he works in the fishery. After work, he heads home, grabs some leftovers, and brings them to Auri. They share dinner, and Kvothe sneaks into the archives to study. Guys?
I like right at the beginning where you get, like, they talk about kind of the economics of the university again. Like, he had talked about it, a couple of times, especially when he first got to the university, but I like that kind of reminder as you're going into book 2. He's talking about all the different goods and services that are available because of what they do, because there is a bunch of arcanists and you got a bunch of wealthy students. So there's been a nice little economy built around servicing, all these people. And you get, the different luxury goods. And you also get they got a dozen versions of Tekkem's winch and Delavari's axle. I don't know who Delavari is. Tekkem's kind of their Socrates character in their world. But you get a lot of nice stuff along those lines.
This is one of those things that I was talking about that we still see here, because we're only, again, like 30-some pages in, where he is reminding us how the world is. Again, I still feel like he's very cognizant of having this book stand alone in that sense. But what's really cool about this combination of what he does here is he takes it a little bit further than what we've gotten thus far, with real details of, like, vintage wine, Lanati coffee, clay, gibstone, potash, sea salt, like the actual details of what can be purchased. And then the things that are actually produced by the university. So it's really cool. I mean, it gives you that. It's not just a place where people learn. They're producing things that go out into the world, so they actually do have, there's real commerce coming out of the university, and there's real utility, which is a perfect way to build into the artificery and what they do and how he can, monetize his efforts. It's great. It's great world building, real detailed.
One thing that did cross my mind in this chapter, with admissions going on, and then as Kvothe starts talking about, and it might be the next chapter, he mentioned that the students get 60%, I believe, of what they produce, so that the university gets the other 40%. And on top of that, like they have these admissions with, I mean, it's just like it's like a prison system or something, dude. They are just raping these kids blind.
Well, there's
the kids are working
things. There's two things that I
go ahead.
Well, sorry, I was going to say there's two things that I liked about that. I mean, one, they are learning these trades, and eventually the idea, if they think they're just going to make these, they're going to be inventors or something, they could leave the university and make these things on their own. What I really like about what he lays out here is Tekkem's winch, Delavari's axle, and then also that commission. It's that giving us little breadcrumbs towards Kvothe's arrow catch, and then the fact that he's going to get a percent because he invents this thing. So it's not just like you make it, you get a percentage. He gets a percentage of every one that's going to be made after the fact, which is pretty great. I mean, it's awesome when you consider that, and then also consider his legend and build that out, and his ingenuity. That lasts a lot longer when, this guy makes something that can be utilized by people throughout the world moving forward. It's
that's
great.
the other aspect that you got to take into consideration for the 40% they're taking. Portion of that is going to whoever invented whatever is being made. If they're still around at the university, they're getting a percentage. If they've left the university, they're no longer getting a percentage. But for a lot of, for some of the newer inventions, they're paying out the inventors a portion of every sale. Then you have all the tools that are made. Yeah. It's not like the students are paying for these tools. They're just able to utilize them. They got to pay for the different things that are needed to make the items, but they're not paying for the tools. So obviously tools got to be replaced and got to be remade.
Yeah.
And so the
school's
paying, paying for that. The building, that fire tears the shit out of the fishery. Kvothe's not paying for that. So that's the university's expense. So, it's understandable that they would be paying 60% considering they're teaching them how to do this shit. They're putting them through an apprenticeship. 60% seems like a pretty fucking sweet deal when you're basically in an apprenticeship learning how to do all this shit, when you're going to be able to take this out into the world and you could start your own business. You could become an artificer in any town and, make money anywhere for the rest of your life with these tools and trades that they're giving you.
You guys love authoritarians. bootlickers.
Yeah.
Jesus. I mean, I could totally see them not paying them anything and being able to justify because, hey, you're students. This is part of the curriculum. You want to get an A in this class or, whatever. They want to get high marks and have a low tuition. You got to, follow suit. So, yeah, actually, it didn't stick out to me as like they're getting raked. It seemed very
generous,
fair. Yeah, well, it seemed definitely fair in my eyes, and it seemed like this is what's interesting about what Rothfuss does largely in the practicality of a large portion of the world is it's very rationally based, which makes it quite believable, right? I mean, and this is one of those parts where it's like, well, this is pretty rational. This would be a rational approach to the way the university is run is quite rational until you get into the politics of it, which we get a piece of that with Sem's innocence and all that, but in these chapters. But I mean, outside of that, it seems quite rational the way they approach, like the curriculum and the way the tuition works and the way that this works here with the artificery. I love it in terms of the way he's building out this world as well. I mean, clearly he has this thing mapped out tremendously, and it just helps us to get our bearings in more and more details.
I wanted a little bit more. I really enjoyed hearing the different things that they sold. I wanted to hear a little bit more about was it alchemy? He said, he mentioned that there's stuff that the alchemists sell that he can't even fathom or something to that effect. I wanted to know a little more about what they're doing in there.
You do get a little bit of that here pretty soon. The reason he kind of sprinkled that into that part is because that's what Sem does. And so he's going to get the plumb bob here in chapter 7. And this is chapter 4. So in just a few chapters, he's going to get plumb bobbed. And then Sem's going to tell him a bit about that kind of alchemy. And then he's also, later on in this book, they're going to get into the alchemy of that stuff that he puts on his hands that allows him to stick his hands in the fire when Ambrose's clothes are on fire, when he's searching for the ring or not the ring, when he's searching for the mommet and they burn the mommet in Ambrose's room. There's an alchemical substance that he put on his hands that allowed him to stick his hands in the fire without getting burned.
It's interesting in both those examples, Kvothe is humbled because he doesn't understand it. And we're also left with it being quite mysterious about how alchemy works. He doesn't really go into it. I mean, he goes into so much else that it does seem to stick out in a way, and that it's in the shadows. It's not really revealed. It's just kind of this other force that's out there. And I wonder, maybe we get more in book 3. Maybe he's not into alchemy.
That's what I was going to say. The part I like about it is the fact that Kvothe doesn't understand it, and it's not something he's studying, so it's not something we're going to learn about, because this is all coming from Kvothe. It's
true. Yeah.
It's like learning, how Florian's magic works or Bast magic works. Like we don't learn these things because we're not in their head. We're in Kvothe's head. And so if he doesn't understand it, we're not going to understand it. We're just going to see it. So I like the way he does it, and
staying true to his narrator.
Yeah, because otherwise, you have to make Kvothe a super genius that understands every single thing that we come across really in the world. And it loses a lot of the realism.
There's so when he runs into Jackson here, I thought there was a chance for a little joke that he didn't use, and I think the Rothfuss dropped the ball, frankly, because he talks about. Well, so Jackson is like, Kilvin's still a little vexed with me, the fire and everything, and he should have said, "Boom, ha ha ha,
yeah. Kaboom."
Be like, yeah, it's not so funny now, is it, motherfucker? Why that's funny to me is it wasn't
joke there, buddy.
Well, I was gonna say,
remember when I remember that why he's mad at you, because I told you about it, and then you were just like, ha ha, kaboom, hilarious. And then I had to run through a fire to save a girl. Fella almost died. You remember that hilarious joke you told right before that?
Well, what I love about it so much is it wasn't funny then, and it certainly isn't funny now.
No.
But yeah, I would have liked to have seen that like a little jab there, but yeah.
Yeah, and then we get, he goes through like how he's making the deck lamps and kind of the drudgery of it. I like that aspect of it, is like all this shit he learns kind of once he understands how to do it and gets it, it just becomes boring, monotonous work that he has to do. It's not like this, I'm making this cool invention, that people are going to be able to use, where, they could use this on boats where they're not risking the boat catching on fire. They don't have to deal with the oil and all that kind of stuff. So, like, I'm making this great thing, and he's just like, man, this is fucking boring. I hate doing this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like the way that it gets delivered because, one, it's very impressive because he knows everything that he needs from memory, basically. And it's when you start to hear it, it's like, dude, this dude's mind is pretty wild. Like, the amount of intricate things that he's able to hang on to and to be able to just, shoot them out. And then also the fact that it is a complex type of thing, and he's so bored with it, which also speaks to how once he figures something out, it's like, dude, I got to do this again. Fuck, I got to, But I also did think it was kind of
takes 40 hours to build. I can see why that would get monotonous.
Yeah, for sure. But I did also think it was really funny, or it's kind of funny where they were talking about what they have left and what would be worth making, and they just said that we only have that ugly one of Vestin's left. So I don't know who Vestin is, but they just kind of shat on him. Apparently he's not much of an artificer.
Yeah, he's one of those kids that came out a little wonky.
yeah. A little soft head.
He's making some ugly ass fucking lamps. Here's one of Vestin's lamps.
Now, it is kind of funny, though, because it gets delivered with, like, when he talks about it, he's like, wow, this would be really practical. Like, it's on a boat, it's hard to break, it, lasts a lot longer, it won't cause a fire. It's like, wow, this is actually, there's a lot of utility in this. But yeah, because of the drudgery of making it, that weighs over the impressive nature of it. And who knows, maybe the first time he made one, it would have been more on the other end, where he's like really impressed with it or what have you, and then that just gets lost over time of after having to go through the drudgery of making it.
Yeah, so the next big part is he runs into Auri, and one of the aspects of it is tied into why some people believe she's an angel. I've talked about it before on one of the episodes where it was, Auri sat on a wide brick chimney waiting for me. She wore the dress I had bought her and swung her bare feet idly as she looked up at the stars. Her hair was so fine and light and made a halo around her head, drifting on the faintest whisper of a breeze. So people tie in that halo around the head to angels, but there's nothing in the books that even talks about angels having a halo over their head in this world. It's not, they just take in angels have halos because that's, the thought around it in our world. That's kind of how like a lot of the pictures are drawn and that kind of thing. So I think they're reaching. I don't think there's any evidence that she's an angel. And if she was an angel, what is she doing? Like, they're supposed to be delivering justice to the world, and she's just chilling in the sewers in this rundown old city. Like, how is she an angel?
It's interesting you mentioned that about her hair, because I've been thinking about it. The way it's described, what it actually kind of reminds me of is Kvothe's magic cloak. Kind of reminds me of that. But, could just be her hair is all wild because she's not getting it cut or anything. Or if she is, she's doing it herself. And it's just wispy. And she's out above things and, just wisp around in the wind. But the fact that he mentions it so repeatedly does kind of remind me of that. And, also he looks at her as his little moon fae. You've mentioned quite a few little things that does suggest that she could be possibly of the fae. So who knows? I mean, that could be something. I don't know. But yeah, it gets mentioned so much that it does start to make you think there's something else about it. I don't buy the angel bit, but Yeah, maybe she's wearing a shade swim cap. I mean, that's what it is, right?
Speaking of swim, it's always mentioned in an interesting or funny way too, like she's swimming. Like I think he mentions it maybe in this chapter or maybe in a previous one, but it's like her hair moves when she turns her head like it would when someone's in a pool of water.
Or underwater, yeah. Yeah, I think
underwater.
I remember hearing that too, yeah.
So the other thing I liked about
I don't know if there's anything to her hair other than she's got light, fine hair that blows around in the breeze. I don't think there's anything magical to it, but I think it's just giving that wild touch to her. Like, she doesn't cut her hair, so it's real fucking long and fine and shit, and so yeah, fucking's gonna blow around and shit. So I think it just is reiterating this is a wild fucking child.
But Rothfuss or Kvothe, however you want to look at it, it's like every time that Auri's mentioned, at least once it's mentioned that her hair blows in a funny way, or I mean, I don't know, what it means, or if she's an angel or whatever, but I do think it's funny that he mentions the way her hair is every time.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that would tie that to something magical. I mean, if you see people with really long hair, it's always, if they don't have it like in a ponytail or wetted down or got something in their hair, it fucking blows all over the fucking place. They look like fucking weirdos.
I was gonna say, I mean, it's simply the repeated mentionings. I mean, we get it puts us in a place as readers. I mean, we get to the point where it's like when something gets repeated, you're like, all right, now I'm starting to think there's something to this. That's what it causes me to start to think about it. And I'm mainly I've thought about it. I wasn't even going to mention it. I mean, maybe eventually, but I wasn't planning on mentioning it until you mentioned that you think she's an angel, and then that made me think, maybe then I guess I'll mention it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of interesting the way that he talks about it. But yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot to it. I mean, sexy, Kvothe has sexy ass hands. Dennis got sexy ass ears, and
she's got wild ass hair.
She got some wild. You know who else has wild hair? Manette. He's got some wild hair. It doesn't wisp around. It just kind of stands up like this dude looks like a psychopath. It seems.
Aventhy's got the magic eyebrows. I just think he Rothfuss keys in on some physical traits on every single person.
Well, it's helpful. It makes them memorable, that's for sure. Maybe Aventhy has in-shaden eyebrows, right? That's why people can't see him. Right?
He has what kind of eyebrows?
In-shaden.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he got his...
It's kind of like
from Florian, so he can hide them if necessary for some reason.
Maybe it's a style, like it's a style in the Fae,
if he
like
really,
how
if he's like in a situation where he doesn't want people to be able to read him, he just makes his eyebrows disappear. Oh yeah, I burn them off, so now I have no idea what the intent of my words are.
I like that, but I think it could have been there was a period of time where it was a fad, like where there was a fad for a period of time where people cut lines in their eyebrows. It's like that. They're in shading.
Well, if he had that kind of power, he would have some threaded eyebrows for sure. That's definitely Aventhy.
Yeah, so it's just his vanity, like Eolian with his tanned feet, with his bronzer feet.
It's like what was that show? 90210. Fucking Luke Perry or one of those guys with their fucking shaved lines in their eyebrows.
I'll be sure.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Vanilla Ice did it. I mean, there's tons of dudes back in the day.
No, he had, well, he probably had both, but lines shaved, on the side of his head.
The head. Yeah.
I had those. Shit, that shit was dope.
Did.
Called those babe magnets, right?
Oh, but he was,
the 80s.
Adidas and Umbro, Adidas and Umbro fucking signs. Umbro was hard, man. Had to do like diamond inside a diamond.
You had to do the diamond inside the diamond, yeah.
He probably shaved him for poker play. He's probably just like a sick ass
poker
player.
Like that.
Like, yeah, Nobody. That's how he got his nickname, Benny No Brows. It was the guy sitting around the poker table. Fucking old Benny No Brows. Nobody knows if he's bluffing or not.
Yeah. I don't think it has to be poker. You're going to remember a dude that you see that doesn't have eyebrows. It's going to be one of those distinctive traits where it's like, yeah, it's a little bit of an odd look. But he likes it, man. He's trying to spread that thing, you know, trying to get that to be a fad again, and shading eyebrows.
Yeah, we get a lot of great stuff with Auri too. Her personality's one of the best in the books. Or like, you know, hello, Kvothe.
The
You
lettuce.
reek. I smiled my best smile of the day. Hello, Auri. You smell like a pretty young girl. I do, she agreed happily. And then she's like giving him the what all the different things think they are, and a lettuce that thinks it's a lettuce. It's a clever lettuce then. Hardly, she said with a delicate snort. Why would anything clever think it was a lettuce? Even if it was a lettuce, I asked. Especially then, she said. Bad enough to be a lettuce. How awful to think you are a lettuce, too.
I didn't appreciate that from Auri. What she got against lettuce? Lettuce is great.
Pretty bland.
Yes, and I think that's what she was going for.
Yeah.
I like it. I like how it builds out her character a little bit, where she's not just everything is innocence or something. You know, she has, I don't know, it kind of lends like she has opinion toward things. It's kind of odd. It's an odd way to show it, but I dig it.
I like too when he's like, he tells her about the potatoes and he's like, they're sleeping and cold, I'm afraid. She looked up at me, her eyes gentle. Don't be afraid, she said, and reached out and rested her fingers on my cheek for the space of a heartbeat, her touch lighter than a stroke of a feather. I'm here. You're safe. Like she's dead earnest there. Like that's not like she's like not even joking. Like she's being completely earnest. Like don't worry, I'll protect you. Like she's got such a funny personality, and she's her views, the way she views her interactions with Kvothe is not the way he views them. Where he's playing a funny game, she's taking it much more seriously than he is.
Yeah, and I like I like that gets reiterated, the fact that she sees her as his protector, and obviously it's vice versa from Kavothe's end. And you know, he's always bringing her clothing and food, and he's taking care of her. At least that's what he thinks in his mind, and that's probably close to accurate. But she can take care of herself. I mean, she even got a place to cook food, let alone she's finding fresh lettuce somewhere.
Yeah, you get both those dynamics here, because you get in the beginning, he talks about she's wearing the dress that he got her, and then, you know, she's got the porcelain teacup, silver beggar's cup. She's got, you know, places to cook her food and heat them up. Like he had mentioned one time, I believe he mentioned one time, like, you know, how did she cook this or something along those lines, where she's got the ability to like cook her food. And so
it's right here. It's basically there's an area where the steam pipes come together, and she can put it in. Yeah, she can put it in there and actually heats it up. Their meal here is one of the clearest, or at least it's very, very clear towards her sort of her royal way, you know, the way that how seriously she takes it. And we get a whole lot of background about her through Kvothe saying, like, I can't speak during the meal. If I do, she'll run off. I won't see her again for weeks. Like the whole thing, because him explaining that, we don't have to see all these interactions where she has to take off. He's explaining it so we don't have to do all that. But that does tell us like how like serious it seems as they eat. You know, it kind of reminds me of movies I've seen back in the day where it's like all these people sit around the table and it's like a royal thing and everyone's quiet and it's very like, I don't know, it's very uptight.
But Kvothe even says, compares it to having tea with the king, I believe is how he put it. So I wouldn't have picked up on that if we hadn't discussed it so many times. But you know, there's one of those blatant things that Rothfuss throws out there again, that she's got to be some royal.
Yeah, you get like the royalty aspect of it, but then you also get like when she's running off, if he asks anything remotely personal and she just fucking takes the fuck off and disappears for days or weeks. It reminds me of when Kvothe got to Tarbean and the slave traders were trying to get him to come back with them, the Butternut Squash Gang. And they were trying to get him to come back with him, and he like took the fuck off. And
he was still in like the feral state.
Yeah, and well, like what he mentioned is like if I went with them, I'd have to tell them my story, and it's a very similar thing with Auri here, and that when these personal questions, if she stays and allows these questions to keep going, she's gonna have to tell him what happened. So I think something clearly very dark happened to her, and then you get like the line from her standalone book that gives an indication that she might have been raped. So I think that something very traumatic happened to her along those lines. I think she's also, there's something more to it. I think it's not just that. I think she's also cracked. I think something has happened along those lines, but I think it could be, that she's cracked and she was raped, and there's, they tie together somehow. But something bad happened to her for sure.
I think it does lend to there seemingly was a real like psychological break within her, and I don't just mean like she's crazy. Like when we see people in the crookery, it seems to be more so than that. It's like she's completely been removed out of her element, and it's this table etiquette is her hanging on to her past, hanging on to at least who she is in that sense. But she's still not ready to open up and talk about it clearly because she runs away at the littlest bit of personal talk. And she only talks to, it seems, Kvothe. It seems like Eloden can be around her every now and then, but he's never gotten as close to her as Kvothe has. So it's not like she's got a bunch of other people going up there.
Hey, one thing I was thinking about, Dan, do you think that there's a possibility Auri might be a shaper and have created the Underthing herself?
No, I don't think she created the Underthing, but yeah, I think she's more than likely a shaper. Like I had talked about in a previous episode, from her book, there's a line in there where she is, the way it's described, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's in a previous episode. So, I mean, you can go back on the episodes, probably like 13 or something, 12 or 13, when I talk about Auri. But yeah, I think she's likely a shaper, and I think it's the evidence for that is from her standalone book. She talks about she was taught under Mandrake, and who's like the alchemy teacher, and so when she's making her soap, like the way it's described when she's making that soap, it's very much gives the impression that she is a shaper. But the Underthing is far too old, for her to have created it.
It seems perfect for the state that she's in the case that this is her place now. She rules this area, and she names these things, and they become what she like adapts to it, and then it becomes her world. And I think she's in a state of healing. It seems like she's coming back from whatever happened to her, and I think we'll get that in book 3, and we'll get some pieces of it, other than managing the boy band. But that's to come. But it's a really, dude, what he does with her. I gotta read her. What Dan keeps calling her standalone book. I gotta read that because it's been a while, and I keep referring to it.
Here's the relevant parts as far as her being a shaper. It's like, but underneath there was a secret deep within the hidden heart of things. Mandrake never told her that. She did not think he knew. Auri found that secret for herself. And then later on, it was when she was making her soap, she knew the true shape of the world. She closed her eyes. She drew her shoulders back. She took a slow and steady breath. There was tension in the air, a weight. There was no wind. She did not speak. The world grew stretched and tight. Auri drew a breath and opened her eyes. Auri was an urchin small.
Her tiny feet upon the stone were bare. Auri stood, and in the circle of her golden hair she grinned and brought the weight of her desire down full upon the world. And all things shook, and all things knew her will, and all things bent to please her. So I think she's very likely a shaper. The under thing's too old for her, and when she's going through the under thing, it's not she's giving it names and she's like discovering it. It's not that her creation. It's more she's discovering it and discovering all the things and all what these the proper place for these things are, but it's not something that she created. No, I don't think that's the case.
She's just it's just such a peculiar situation that she's in, that that she's the only one that lives down there, at least as far as we can tell. And I mean, every so often when we think about her, or when we talk about her, I get to thinking for a while of why is she down there? What, not only just what has happened, but it makes me think that possibly she's maybe a prisoner down there, or especially with the stuff with the Borrow King and how Kvothe saves a princess.
She's definitely not a prisoner. She can get out whenever she wants.
Yeah, she's just in hiding, man. She's hiding from anybody and everybody else. And she's chosen to be desolate by herself. And it seems like she can't interact with people. She can't psychologically handle it. But she's fine. I mean, she thinks she's fine. That's that's the interesting thing when they bring in Mola, I believe, when Kvothe brings her up there. She's like, oh my gosh, we got to help this. It's all that. And then he has to talk her back. Imagine how that's going to work out. She's okay. She's doing okay now. Yeah, it's interesting. Again, it makes me feel like she's in a healing. She's opening up a bit, and she's starting to heal, and she even gets to meet Mola. So she's getting to a point where, I feel like eventually maybe she comes out of it, but I mean, who knows? Because we need book 3 to tie up these loose ends, But I was going to say, when we were talking about how she gets built out a little bit with the lettuce line, I kind of like where she talks about, hey, you didn't bring your loot. And he's like, oh, I got to go read tonight, but I'll bring it soon. She's like, how soon? 6 nights from now. She's not happy with that. He wants her to play sooner. And then he says 6 days is soon for a stone. And she's like, then play for a stone in 6 days. Play for me tomorrow. I like that she gets a little bit more assertive,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's small. It's a little thing, but it makes her into more of an individual instead of just being this mysterious little moon fae, with her hair and all that shit.
Yeah, she is kind of very commanding of she wants everything her way.
Which again,
to the point where you can't even interact with her unless you interact with her on her terms.
Yeah. Which again feeds into the royalty aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. Again, this is one of those characters. I feel like Rothfuss has every single one of these characters down really well, but this is, again, I mean, we have so many little signs that, yeah, he really had her mapped out. It's great.
That is interesting. I hadn't thought about it, but if you think about someone, who is royal, they're going to be demanding. They're going to expect you to bend to their will, whatever they want.
Because people do.
Yeah.
And they're raised to be that way. I mean, look at the mayor. Right? Look at Ambrose. Yeah. Look at Sam is the only one that kind of stands out as not being like that.
Yeah.
Of people that we know that have some royal, blood.
Yeah, then it ends with him talking about going into the archives to study. And he's like, Willem was right. I was banned from the archives, but I always had a knack for getting into places where I shouldn't. More's the pity. That line stands out to me. One, because he talks about it as a knack, which, as far as, we know as of knacks, it could just be, he's saying it as an expression and it's not an actual knack, but it could be something like, he's able to get into the mayor's chest and he's able to get into the archives when, he's been locked out of there. He's able to get into these places. Could be an actual knack, like Trep rolls 7s. He hits a table, 7s. He bets on someone, 7s. Could be something that if Kvothe wants to get in somewhere, he's got a knack for it, which would be interesting too because he can't get in the thrice locked box. So maybe that's tied in where he doesn't have access to a knack that he normally is capable of. That's just something that's naturally attuned to him. That he has a knack for these things. Maybe he's lost that knack because of whatever's happened to him that's created the coat situation in the bar.
Yeah, it seems like he's lost a whole hell of a lot, man. It's his sympathy, it's the ability to open things, it's his voice, it's the music. I mean, he's lost like everything. And that's why I keep coming back to this idea that perhaps the state he's put himself in, it seems like there's a lot of guilt and depression, all that involved, but it almost seems like also there's like a Graham type situation. Like the Waystone Inn represents something that hides him and protects him, and perhaps does more than that. Perhaps it's protecting more. Perhaps it's protecting something inside that box that he doesn't want to unleash because of what he's already unleashed. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, it's all just speculation, but there's that feeling that I get from all of those traits that sort of, to me, hints at that. It's a real fucking shame, dude. It's a bummer. Like, Kvothe is a bummer, dude. He's a super bummer. But
it seems like he'd be pretty fun to party with, especially like you ask him about like dinner. Hey, let me hear about some more stories of dinner, or tell me why you can't do your magic, or you there's no music in here. Seems like that's you just got to hit on those right keys, and then all of a sudden this dude's fucking super interesting as he's exploding bottles in your face. And fucking then it's like, oh, holy shit, who is this fucking dude?
I was going to mention we get another piece of him ruining his clothes again. It seems quite obvious that would happen with him having to crawl into the archives, but it's funny because it's every time he has a set of clothes, he's ruining. He's got 4 shirts and he's ruining one of them, and the pants or whatever he's wearing. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, and he just stores those. He just keeps reusing those. Yeah. Like that's been for that purpose the whole time.
Yeah, just to belly crawl into the archives.
But
it's to be expected.
Yeah, I don't have anything else on that chapter. I don't know if you guys do.
Nope.
All right, then we'll move on to chapter 5, the Aeolian. In this chapter, Kvothe continues hustling to make money for admissions. He works in the fishery, medica, and tries gambling, and eventually he ends up heading to the Aeolian. He brings Will and Sim and Minette. They play cards between the musicians' sets. Minette explains to Kvothe why he will pay a shitload more for admissions this term. And then Kvothe gets up and goes and searches for Denna, his special lady friend. But she's with some royal douchebag named Kellen. Kvothe returns to his table, where he and Minette explain to Will what a patron does. Kvothe goes up and then goes up to play his lute for the crowd. Guys?
I like at the beginning where it goes through all the different ways he's trying to make money. It really is hammering in on how broke the dude is. Like, I mean, that's a lot of these, these early chapters. It's the weight of the admissions weighing in on him and how broke he is. And then, you'll eventually get, that lets him know that he's even in a deeper hole than he even imagined. But you see like how much of a hustler he is, all the different things he's doing, working an extra night at anchors, doing some piecework in the fishery. And then again, when he describes some of the piecework he's doing, making the special emitters, and then is like, he explains how dangerous those emitters are, the process in making them. And then when he spills that little bit on his shirt and he's like gotta fucking hold it with little things to keep it off his skin, and then cut that piece of the cloth away.
Ruins
and
shirt.
Like, and then you're like, there's better ways to make money than doing this shit.
No, you're right though. I mean, it really does. It really makes it clear when he's like loading wagons. Like he's doing. Yeah. I mean, for like he's doing like whatever it takes, and then he goes and gambles and basically loses anything that he worked so hard to build
he has
up.
all those things he's hustling to do, and then he goes gambling and ends up with less than he had to begin with. So all for naught. And I like that part though, where he talks about like, you know, that stuff almost touched his skin and how dangerous it is. And then when he gets the plumb bob, part of it is like he's or not. It's not the plumb bob. It's when Ambrose starts attacking him later on in the books. At first he's thinking like, did one of these chemicals get in my skin? He's like, is that why this shit is happening? That, you know, I you know, some of these chemicals touched me without me knowing it. And so like it kind of just gives you a little bit of a lead in to what he's going to speculate on later, as far as why his body's getting all hot and cold and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love the way they talk about the transporting agents and vaporous acids and heavy metals, and how basically, you know, it can leak through your skin. You don't have a mark. You don't even know what's happening, and then it eats the calcium out of your bones. Or basically, you won't even know what's going on, and then months later, you start to bleed out of your gums and lose your hair and shit. It's like, damn. Like, I mean, it really makes tangible how dangerous the alchemy type stuff is, the alchemical compounds they're talking about. And because we need that. I mean, that's the thing with like all these steps to build these things. We can use our imagination, but we can only go so far. You know, how many people have, you know, built a lamp with alchemical compounds, right? I mean, we don't have much to draw on, but when you start to give these little details, it really makes it much more tangible that not only what he's doing is difficult, it's dangerous.
Yeah, it's interesting what he does in the opening of this book, because none of it is pertinent until you get into chapter 7 with the plumb bob. That's when the story starts moving forward. But like the first 6 chapters, it's a lot of world building, and it's there's not much going on. Like, it's just a matter of a handful of days. There's not anything like, you know, significance. It's just all about his hustling, you know, the different dynamics of working at the artificery, you know, the different things that he can do to earn money. And, you know, it goes into like, he still doesn't have his patron, why he can't get it. So it's just a lot of like world building out the what we've already learned in book 1. It's kind of fleshing that out, but he takes those chapters where it could just be something that you covered in one chapter and just kind of matter-of-factly stated all these things. But he does it, and he makes them really interesting chapters. And like the scenes at the Eolian are extremely memorable. And he takes this where there's not a lot going on as far as moving the story forward, but there's still extremely interesting stories.
I think that really speaks to what I've been saying, is that the book can stand alone. So I believe it's quite intentional that he's laying a lot of world building early in the book so that it can catch people back up to how this world works. But it's also, like you said, it's interesting where Kvothe is, because Kvothe is on this roller coaster of situations where he's flush with cash, then he's not, right? He's doing really well all of a sudden, then he's back and destitute. Like, and here we are again. All these tensions are right back. And it's always right there, man. The what do you call it? The lines at the door or whatever.
Yeah, because you brought it up, Tim, I'm going to skip ahead just for a second. Another one of these world buildings where he allows the reader to have only read the second book. When he talks about his cloak, he's like, "Oh, the cloak that fella made me, that has all these amazing pockets." I'm like, Jesus, Rothfuss, come on. We know you love cloaks, okay? Get over it.
Yeah, no, he gets quite theatrical with that whole exchange, which is fun. It's great. And you made Kellen sound like a douchebag dude. He is so admirable. Oh my goodness! I mean, he's like the coolest guy in the world outside of Grey Dalsinti. This dude.
I got a lot to say on on Kellen to dispute what you said.
Well, then let's pump the brakes. So
well, yeah, let's get to him. Like, there's plenty to cover.
One thing that I did like a lot that gets done in this chapter that is great to me is Manat gets built out way more than he had been prior. We have respect for like how, well, he's odd. He's an oddity, but at the same time, he's quite adept. Like I wouldn't go as far as necessarily call him brilliant, but the guy is very, very intelligent. He knows the university well. He knows how things work, and he's very direct. Like he speaks directly to Kvothe. And he does that early in the first book where he just tells him exactly like it is, and it's quite embarrassing for Kvothe. Where Kvothe, I think what I'm thinking of is when Kvothe says he's gonna, look up Chandrian and shit like that, and he kind of shits all over him, which is important because Kvothe needs to know that's how people are going to look at him if he's just going to say this without, dressing it up with other intentions. But I think Sim helps him there. But in this context, number one, he does a tremendous job of hitting on the woman. He's successful, and he does it in a great way in front of a bunch of dudes that don't know how to talk to women. So that in itself is quite respectable. But he's also just like the way he plays corners. I like that part too that we get here where we get to finally see Sim suck at corners. Instead of just hearing that he sucks at corners, we get to really feel it. Like the dude doesn't know how to bet. He bets too much. It becomes obvious that he has a good hand. It's funny, man. Anybody that's ever played poker, you can feel exactly what they're feeling with. And I like that Will kept his word. That's the other thing. Will's losing, and Manat's a good partner for Kvothe, but Manat's Kvothe's partner because Will kept his word that he would take Sim next when they play corners. I think that was from book 1 or either that or early in this one. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember when that happened though.
It was something.
Yeah,
Will owed him something. I don't remember what exactly it was about.
It's for when they exchange tiles, and
that's
probably chapter 3.
Yeah,
but yeah, there's a lot of great stuff here. Like you get like when he goes in, when he gets there, and they're talking about bringing him out, and like we needed the 4th person, but also we got to get this old dude out of the university every once in a while. And then you also get, which is one of the things that Rothfuss is really good about, is he introduces a new character, the guy who's at the door, who also works at the Eolian, who's obviously he's not there all the time. He's been away this whole time that Kvothe's been there. He didn't see Kvothe earn his pipes. So when he sees Kvothe walking up, he's like, where the fuck did you get those, man? Are those fake? And he's questioning whether he's actually earned his pipes, and so Marie's got to kind of speak up for him. But like he does these little things where it gives Kvothe a chance to kind of explain to Manette, that you have to pay money to get in there. Like Manette's learning a little bit, and so it gives you a new dynamic to going into the Eolian that wouldn't be there if you didn't write in this new character. It's not necessary, but it makes the interaction a little bit more interesting, where you learn a little bit about Manette, that he's been there this long. He doesn't even know how this place works, where you wouldn't get that dynamic if it was Stanchion or Diak at the door.
It was also a clever way to remind the reader that Kvothe is young, like kind of absurdly young, to be as talented as he is. And he's going to stand out. And that's going to be very important with his little showmanship that he does here, that he's an oddity for being as young as he is, to be as talented as he is, and to be capable to do what he's about to do. Getting that reminder is important just to reiterate to us anyway, even as close readers. But again, that's what I keep saying about book 2. We're 40 pages in. So it's an important reminder because we haven't been at the Eolian, since the first book. So.
And besides the fact that it's written so that people could read only the second book, me personally, they said 15, and I'm like, damn, I forgot that he's only 15.
Yeah, that's actually quite important. Yeah, that's quite important because I still forget. It's like, oh yeah, he is that young.
Yeah.
It's quite an important reiteration just for even close readers, because it's not. Again, it tests the boundaries of being realistic, right? It's extraordinarily impressive, and that's important because he is that impressive. This guy is extraordinary. But how do you make the extraordinary realistic? You got to keep reiterating that, and then also show us his shortcomings. And his shortcomings are so evident here with the way that he works the crowd, and like his point of coming here is make some money, and then he fucks it all up because he meets DeBrickshaw with the cement face or whatever you want, whatever Kellen, whatever.
He didn't fuck it up. He did exactly what he wanted to, and it worked out better than he thought.
I don't know about that, man. It sounds like he would have got more money.
He says
if
this. He yeah, I know, but that his point was to do something for the musicians, because then the musicians would buy him drinks, and then he would be able to order his scutton or souten or whatever it's called, and he would make money at the bar, and he ended up making more money than he thought. He explicitly says this was why I did it. So it worked out exactly how he wanted. It worked out better than he thought.
Oh.
Because he mentions that the gentry stopped giving him money because of what Ambrose had done. He's like, there's two ways to make money.
Okay.
It's because the gentry will give you gifts, and he's like, but the gifts had dried up because of Ambrose. And he's like, so the only way he's making money is from the musicians buying him drinks. So he did something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I knew. I mean, obviously, I don't lose sight of that in regards to the not being able to get a what's the word there? A sponsor, whatever the fuck. I can't remember what the word is, but
patron.
Patron. I hadn't forgotten that, but yeah, I hadn't considered. Because threat, gives him shit ton of money the first time he meets, but yeah, that doesn't happen again. And you almost like take it. At least I had sort of taken it for granted that he would get that, but yeah, it does seem like the stripper trick is the trick that's lying in his pockets.
Yeah. He says it explicitly that for a time he was getting gifts, but then Ambrose had dried that well up as well.
But yeah, back to what you were saying. I think it's a super clever way to do it, is have this stranger work in the door, because it does create the situation why they would be explaining to Manette instead of just like throwing it at him. It's more organic that it comes from, hey, what's the deal with all this? Because he's asking because of what he just saw, so it's smoother to do it in the way that Rothfuss did. It was cool.
You learn something about Manette. You get a reminder that the Eolian's different, and then you get the stuff about Kvothe, like when Manette's asking about the place, and Sim's like, let me put this in terms you'll understand, Manette. If music had a university, this would be it, and Kvothe would be a full-fledged arcanist. Bad analogy, Will said. This is a musical court, and Kvothe is one of the gentry. We ride his coattails in. It's the reason we have tolerated his troublesome company for so long. A whole jot just to get in? Manette asked. I nodded. Manette gave a non-committal grunt as we looked around, eyeing the well-dressed nobles milling on the balcony above. Well then, he said, I guess I learned something today.
Yeah,
it's a lot of great stuff on their dynamic, and one of the things one of the little lines that I think is interesting for how it plays into later chapters is when Kvothe tells Manette not to talk while someone's singing, and Manette's like, don't worry about me embarrassing you. I'm not a complete barbarian. It's interesting, like he refers to it in that way, considering we're going to meet the Adim later on in this world, and the Adim's fixation with all these people outside of the Adim are barbarians. So it's just kind of an interesting little touch there, where I'm not a complete barbarian with the way the Adim describe them.
Yeah, that's such an interesting move that Rothfuss makes in this book. That's one of the things that, talk about world building. You go to a different sector of the world, and they just shit on this whole advanced society completely because of how culturally different they are. And what's so great as a reader, you realize it's literally just a split in cultures and seeing the world differently, because they do see the world so differently that they view it so different, even though they're not. They're not actually that different. And this is more of an advanced society in many ways. But
they would look at the Eolian like a high class fucking brothel.
Yeah, like a whorehouse. Yeah, it's really interesting, just the different perspective there, and what, just the different way that they view the world and what they covet and what they don't. It's tremendously interesting to build the world out in that way. And I mean, one of the most effective things is looking at the book from the perspective of Kvothe. It's that big setback suddenly, because he keeps moving. He's advancing so much by that point, and then this big setback, which is like, how else are you going to set him back at this point other than like, an injury or a death or something like that? And it's that now he has to adapt to a culture that thinks he's a barbarian, a savage. It's great, man.
I also I like I love how they build out Manette, but I also love how they further build out Sim. This is a great chapter for Sim. Like, you get where Manette's letting Kvothe know that his tuition's going to be higher because of all the fucking trouble he's been causing, and Sim looked troubled. But the admission interview still determines the lion's share of your tuition, doesn't it? From his tone, I guess Sim hadn't even considered the possibility of personal grudges or politics entering into the equation, where he's just like completely thrown off. Like, hold on, they'll just raise your tuition for fucking causing trouble. Like, he doesn't consider politics at all, and it's like, well, no, they just determine your question by how well you answer the questions.
Yeah,
that's just how it works.
Yeah, it feeds into
they're
that.
Still humans.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feeds into the innocence of Sim so perfectly. And it reads that way, too, where Manette's just like, yeah, dude, you don't. And they're nice about it, but at the same time, it's like you can feel them just feeling like, nah, dude, you're way off base here.
Yeah, he's super naive.
Yeah.
And then when he hears that, my best guess is you're looking at 10 talents, and Sim's like, good thing you're so flush. It's like, not as flush as that. How can you not be? The masters fined Ambrose almost 20 talents after you broke your loot. What'd you do with the money? And then Will looks at his loot and is like, bought a loot? Like, it's like, what can you do with 20, what can you do with 20 talents? You can buy a fucking loot. That's what you can do with it. Obviously, he didn't spend 20 talents on it. He also paid off Devi, which was like 6 talents. And then he spent a bunch, though, on that loot. I don't think they mentioned the specific price, but obviously, if he's broke, he spent most of it. Yeah. Most of the remaining 14 talents on the loot.
I like the whole back and forth there. And it's important to have it here because we're about to have, the troopers' love for music and how they're connected with their instrument. And to build that up, they do it with how much you can spend on something that has such great utility in a world like this, like a horse, and how you can spend as much, if not more, on an instrument. And it's really great that Sim is like, no, get the fuck out. Like, no, that's not possible. But virtually everybody else at the table is like, yeah, absolutely, you can. Like,
but yeah, Sim even mentioning is like, my dad spent 250 hard on some type of horse, and Kvothe's like, see that guy's mandolin? It's like, it's worth twice that much.
Yeah.
He's like,
well,
no way.
And that's the funny thing, because he goes to, horses have bloodlines. Like, that mandolin has a bloodline. It was made by Antresser. So, this is the Stradivarius of their world or something. It's been around for 150 years. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's a tremendous.
Stratosphere. That's the word. Stratosphere.
Said it wrong?
Yeah.
Said it wrong, Tim.
Yeah.
Good correction, Dan.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
No, but it is. It's true to life, right? Because
Jesus Christ.
People spend that much on cars, and then you turn around and find a $1 million violin. How crazy is that?
Well, and I was going to say, Dan was talking about that line about Manet and not being a barbarian, or Manette, whatever the fuck. It's kind of small, but in my mind, it does do what Rothfuss does, which he talks about within that scene we were just talking about. Fault isn't the issue, and where he's talking about Kvothe, he's saying it's not his fault. It wasn't completely his fault and why he got whipped and all that shit. And he says a tree doesn't make a thunderstorm, but any fool knows where lightning's going to strike. And that always, to me, that's the foreshadowing of what we're going to get with, the mercenaries going running into Cinder and his little gang.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wanted to mention it because it's one of those little things, man. They're important because it just puts it in your mind, right? Everything on these pages build out the world, and just any mention, it's a seed that's sitting there waiting to be cultivated, right? So every little other piece sort of builds towards that, and that's such a great. There's so many great scenes. There's so many great scenes in this book. It's just absolutely fucking tremendous, and that's obviously one of them. But we'll get there. True to life, right?
Yeah.
Lightning.
True to life.
Yeah, thunderstorms.
Thunderstorms and lightning. It's very true to life.
But it is also interesting where, again, the reiteration of the idea of being without a loot, I'm not going to do it again. He's like, yes, I could have waited. Yeah, okay, fine. But no, fuck that shit. I have the money. I'm not gonna, be without it for that period.
Which is interesting because, as Kvothe, the idea of going without his loot is just unthinkable. But when he's Kote and when he's in Tarbean as a little kid, he goes without the loot and he doesn't think about it. He doesn't mention it. So it's more of that lens, more of that there's something different going on because, when he's himself, he can't go without his loot.
Yeah, not the same dude in that Waystone Inn.
Yeah, that's really it. He feeds his super dark emo self that takes over. Really feeds in on that, right? I mean, he's feeding it by denying himself music, and actually, that's something that got mentioned that made me sort of think something else might have happened when he talks about. He was talking about some of the people that they've heard perform thus far, and he said an older man made his way up onto the stage after a brief introduction, blah, 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 blah. Most things fail with age. Our hands and backs stiffen, our eyes dim, skin roughens, and our beauty fades. The only exception is the voice. Properly cared for, a voice does nothing but grow sweeter with age and constant use. His was like a sweet honey wine. He finished the song to hearty applause, blah. But yeah, it's one of those things that Kvothe is one of the best performers and musicians that this world that we've experienced. He's like Eolian's, next, whatever, the second coming or what have you, and no music whatsoever. So I do wonder if something even more intense happened. Like where it's been taken away from him, like part of his, because we've talked about that, where perhaps music is one of these other, it's like sympathy, or it's like, some of these other magics, and maybe there is magic in his music, and whatever gets stripped away from him, maybe he just simply can't perform that. Like he can't perform sympathy. Perhaps he can't play a fucking chord. I don't know.
Yeah,
it seems hard to.
It seems to be something to do with his hands, because he can't do sympathy, and he can't play. He doesn't play his music. He can't do the ADIM fighting skills when he tries them. But he's able to sing. We see him sing. He's able to name. He makes that. I mean, seemingly he's able to name because he didn't use sympathy to break that bottle. So it seems like he would have had to have used some kind of naming or something. Like, I don't know what the fuck happened when he broke that bottle, but there's something magical happened there. Unless it's just the ultimate coincidence.
No. Yeah.
But what you mentioned there, Tim, though, he does kind of double.
That seems even something more than naming, because he doesn't even name anything. He doesn't say anything. It's just
no. It's
boom,
like it's like that. It's kind of like
I don't even know what that is.
It's kind of like the name of the wind. I mean, it kind of reminds me of that. It was a circumstance, raw emotion brought out.
Except for even when he calls the name of the wind, he calls the name of the wind. He says it.
No, but I'm talking about with
yells it. He screams it. This one, he doesn't even say anything.
Well, I was going to say, I'm talking about specifically with Ambrose, because when it happens with Ambrose, it boom, it happens. And that's what happens with the strawberry wine is boom, it just happens. And it's something like somebody brings up dinner or something. That's what it is,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And he just boom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just
Agree.
that raw emotion.
Yeah, I agree on the raw emotion is what drove whatever magical thing happened. But the difference is when he called the name of the wind against Ambrose, raw emotion brought it out, but he still called the name of the wind. He said the name of the wind. It took saying the name of the wind to call the name of the wind. It didn't just like wind blew without him saying anything. He had to say the name of the wind to control it. He didn't say a word when he broke the bottle. That's not naming.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Huh.
So I don't know what the fuck that is. It's naming-esque, but it's not naming. Maybe it's shaping.
Destruction.
Maybe he's a
instead
shaper
of creating.
now and he's not a namer.
Think that both destruction and creation go along with shaping?
Don't know. I don't know anything about it. There's not enough to go on.
No. Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because, if you can, he who creates, right, can destroy.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting thing to tease out. What Dan read there from Auri's book really puts you in a place where it seems like the shaping is happening. So I wonder if the destruction would be like an unwinding of sorts. And maybe Kvothe picks it up next time he's up in the old Fae. You know?
Yeah, it's definitely shaping's going to be a part of the third book. It's going to be a pivotal part, I think. But we don't know enough about it yet. But as far as magic is concerned, it did not seem like sympathy, did not seem like naming, so shaping would be my next best guess is what the fuck happened there. And then if he still has the ability to shape, is it some kind of latent ability where he doesn't have full control over it? Because he doesn't use it against the skin dancer. He doesn't use any magic there. So I really want to know what the hell's going on with him as Coat, because we need to kind of have a better understanding of what's going on there to make sense of what's happened. You know, how he broke the bottle, how he killed the Scrael, why didn't he do any magic to fight the skin dancers or the two guys that robbed him? Like, so there's some questions we need answered, and there's not any good information to figure it out on our own.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of shapes, I kind of dig this big old broad Marie.
Yeah.
She's I like the cut of her jib, as they say. Yeah, she's pretty cool, man. And I guess she kills it up there on stage.
Yeah, I like Manette fucking cuts them down, and they just accept it because he's right. And he's not fucking saying it, to be insulting. He's just matter-of-factly stating the obvious truth, and they just accept it. But then, Manette's obviously, that's his woman. That's his type right there.
Well, I love...
He's all over it, buddy.
It tells you a lot about all of them because Willem's like, I'll admit, I've given Marie a fair amount of consideration. And then Manette, like you said, is... Yeah, that woman's too much for you. You can't handle that. And Sem even goes as far as like, yeah, she's not for me. She always looks like she's getting ready to wrestle somebody or go off and break a wild horse. And he's like, yeah, that's what's great about her. Yeah. You saw what's great about her and you're scared of her. So, yeah, you can't handle her.
My favorite part about her is Kvothe talking about how she somebody called her that loudmouth bitch or something like that. And and she punched him right in the throat and then kicked him while he was down.
Yeah, no, it's great. Dude, the whole play out is fantastic. I love Manette goes as far as saying if we were living in a better age, they'd build a temple around a woman like that. You're like, whoa, okay. And then, yes, as Simon mentions, he once saw her get in a fight or heard about her getting in a fight. And then Kvothe, does mention that she punched a dude in the throat for referring to her as that mouthy fiddler bitch. But I like the fact that she kicked him when he was on the ground too, but only once. And nowhere that hurt him in a permanent way. Like she's, she knows how to fuck somebody up, but at the same time, like, she's cool. She's not a fucking asshole.
Pulls back.
Yeah. Pull her punches
gonna...
to a degree, but at the same time, be like, yeah, you don't talk shit about me, bro.
We get some great descriptions of music being played. I mean, this is one of the things Rothfuss is a master at in these books, where both between Marie's playing and Kvothe's playing, but like with Marie, it was Marie continued her roundel, the slow, sweet pace of it gradually building until it was trotting along briskly. The sort of tune you would only think of dancing if you were exceptionally light on your feet or exceptionally drunk. She let it build until it was beyond anything a man could dream of dancing to. It was nothing like a trot now. It sprinted, fast as a pair of children racing. I marveled at how clean and clear her fingering was despite the frantic pace. Faster, quick as a deer with a wild dog behind it. I started to get nervous, knowing it was just a matter of time before she slid and slipped or dropped a note. But somehow she kept going, each note perfect, sharp and strong and sweet, her flickering fingers arched high against the strings. The wrist of her bow hand hung loose and lazy despite the terrible speed. Faster still. Her face was intent, her bow arm a blur. Faster still. She braced herself, her long legs planted firmly onto the stage, her fiddle tucked hard against her jaw. Each note sharp and as early morning bird song. Faster still. She finished in a rush and gave a sudden flourishing bow without a single mistake. I was sweating like a hard-run horse, my heart racing. I wasn't the only one. Will and Sim each had a sheen of sweat across their forehead. Manette's knuckles were white where he gripped the edge of the table. Merciful Telu, he said breathlessly. They have music like this every night? I smiled at him. Still early, I said. You haven't heard me play. I love that description.
Yeah.
And then I love Manette's reaction to it, and then Kvothe's reaction to Manette. It's all just such a perfect little paragraph or a couple paragraphs where that you get that pace, faster still, faster still, faster still, faster still. And then Manette like, what the fuck was that? And then you get the great Kvothe like, yeah, wait till you hear me, buddy. You think that was fucking great?
No, dude, it's so good. I mean, in so many ways, the way he's able to get you to feel it, and then literally people are sweating. They're going right along with the music. It reminds me of like Flight of the Bumblebee or something is what I pictured. But it also, I mean, it's so impactful because we're right about to get to where Kvothe is going to do something quite similar. Not in terms of pace, but what he's about to do. It's much easier to be there with his two performances because of what we just went through with what you just read.
Yeah, I mean it's such a brilliant description. I mean, it puts you in the bar, puts you in the audience, like you can feel it, like you just fucking feel like someone just fucking continually going faster and faster, like playing the guitar and just like you get like those the Spanish guitar songs.
Yeah, Segovia or somebody. Or Django Reinhardt. No, it's fantastic, man. It's one of those, I can't think of a lot of authors that are able to write something like this. So write music in a way where it's like, fuck, man, I want to go see some live music. Like, I want to, like, you want to experience what he's writing. It's just phenomenal. And to be able to describe music in literary form, I mean, there's a lot of people just can't do it or haven't been able to master it, but it's tremendous, man.
Yeah, it makes the Eolian so unique.
Yeah.
Like, because it's not just you go there to hear a certain type of music. It's all different types of instruments, all different types of songs, all different types of styles. And then you have guys that are just like doing things just to demonstrate their skill at the craft. And they're not really necessarily playing a song. They're just demonstrating their skill. So it's like a musician's dream. Mm-hmm. Where they get to see the masters of their craft, and they get to experiment and do these type of things in front of the most talented musicians around, and then you just get to be a witness to it, where you just get to see these people experimenting and performing and doing, these unbelievable feats of music.
Yeah, and without it's really amazing the way that Rothfuss does it. Just because there's how can you explain musical notes and besides the pace is really the only way he can describe it. But nonetheless, there we are right there in the Aeolian with everybody else, and he does it again just as masterfully in the beginning of the next chapter when Kvothe starts playing.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I was saying.
He's really good at it, man.
In terms of getting us there, it's extraordinarily effective because of what he just did. We're in that place, and it's fresh in our mind. And we still run into Denna, so it doesn't come up immediately, which that's important. I mean, it's kind of how it even works at the Eolian as well, where that's so great. I mean, we talked about this originally when we talked about the Eolian. What would be so great about it is don't constantly play song after fucking song, man. Play a couple songs, then we all get to walk around, talk, get some drinks and shit, and then come back, And I want this place. I want to be able to go. I'd pay a shot.
It makes me wonder if there is a place like this that Rothfuss, or if it's a unique idea that Rothfuss just came up with, because it's a great idea, and like we've talked about, we all want to go there.
One would have to think. I mean, there's situations like this. I mean, I've seen Government Mule play a few times, and every time they play, local musicians from LA will come and sit in. They'll have 5 different bass players in one night. And it's because guys that are local to LA will come in because it's this band. You know what I'm saying? So the Allman Brothers that shit used to happen as well. And it's fantastic. Like Tom Petty comes in and plays a Bob Dylan song with the Allman Brothers. And it's like, this is fucking amazing. But it's different in like what's so special about this situation is I'm going to the Hollywood Bowl to see the Allman Brothers, and then these other people come in. Great. But with the Eolian, especially a town like Los Angeles, all these musicians are here. So if there's this bar that we all know that all these guys could be showing up at, fuck, man, that'd be tremendous. Right? I mean, it could be every night. It'd be just...
The only thing we have that's like this is the comedy shows.
Yeah, I guess it's true.
Like the Comedy Store and that kind of stuff, where you would have, a Rogan, a Chappelle, and, all the different, Segura and Bert Kreischer, all these huge headliners. These guys that are filling up stadiums yet, they're going there every single week, going to the Comedy Store, and, not anymore, but,
jazz has this element. I mean, in New York, in certain times, New York City, I mean, you had the best jazz musicians in the entire world would be playing night after night on all these different places, and so you could have a similar type of situation, a similar type of experience. But I don't know. It's
just you don't get the variety. Like that's the thing about like. With the comedy, you get a lot of different varieties, different types of comedy.
This is kind of like styles. It's kind of like an open. It's kind of like an open mic night for musicians, basically. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I love the idea. It's fucking tremendous.
The one thing that does come to mind that's similar would be like if you guys know what a battle of the bands is, because the ones that I've been to, like the band will just play like a 2 or 3 song set, and that's it. Then the next band comes up, and there's a lot of different styles of music, same kind of thing. And there's, pauses, 10-minute intervals between the different band sets. But, definitely not the same thing though, because it's not, brilliant. Not everybody's that good.
Yeah.
Some of the bands suck.
It's a talent show.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like a talent show.
Let's do some talent shows for adults. Go up and play a saw for everyone.
But moving forward, then we get the introduction to Brickjaw, Big Pemberton. And So he goes, he makes his way up. He sees Denna. She waves him down. He comes up, and then, he's walking up to, Rich Moneybags. And then he starts like, I felt a little shabby by comparison. More than a little. Every piece of clothing I owned in the world amounting to 4 shirts, 2 sets of pants, and a few sundries. All of it secondhand, threadbare to some degree. I was wearing my best tonight, but I'm sure you'd understand that what I say is my best was not particularly fine. The one exception was my cloak, fella's gift, and he nerds out on his dork ass cloak. I mean, the one thing, like, he's he thinks that improves his look, and then all it does is just make him look like a giant nerd. Like, not only are you poor, but you're also a huge nerd wearing your cloak, and like you're bowing, flipping your cloak out, and it's like, all right, dude, settle down.
I love
dork.
I love the flipping the cloak out. It's like the equivalent of popping your collar.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's just like pulling that up, pop it out. Like, I'm looking good now. I mean, now that I pop that out, here we go. Now I'm up for it. And he even goes as far as talking about, like, he practiced in front of a mirror for so long to get it right.
That's one of the things I respect about Kellen is, like, I've been talking now for both books about how big of a dork Kvothe always looks with his cloak, and Kellen finally gives a proper reaction that everybody has, and this he's just finally got the balls big enough to fucking treat Kvothe with the proper amount of dismissiveness for how weird he looks. Where he sees this guy coming up looking all shabby, wearing his nerd cloak, and he's just like, all right, dude, let you fucking move it along.
Well, at that point, not only does Kvothe do a polite bow, but he shifts his weight, so the cloak falls away from his shoulder, displaying the talent pipes.
Yeah, and he practiced hours.
Yes, so
practiced it for hours.
So what he does there?
What are you doing, you nerd?
Not only does he pop his collar, but he pops it off something proper like, right?
Yeah. Fucking popping his collar and then dusting his shoulders off.
Not only that, and he goes, Willem was right. At the Eolian, I was one of the gentry.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really thinking he's fucking pimp shit.
Kind of wish
reality, all the women around like looking at Kellen like, no, he's pimp shit. Do what he's doing.
Kellen. What's your name? Okay, whatever. Cloak. Call me Cloak.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
Good performance. Yeah, I heard you on your little troopers fucking folk music lute. He's like, I heard you on that cloak.
I do actually, man. I do really like their shit talk back and forth. Like, it's pretty subtle, but he's like, he says something about, so you're a harper, and DeBrickshaw or DeBrickface is like harpist. I play the Pendenhale, king of instruments. And then later, the Kvothe says,
what are you, a piper?
Yeah, he's like, what are you, a piper? He's like, pipist. But no,
well,
I favor
that.
Lute.
Like when he's like, he says, are you a piper? And it was like, this is after he looked him up and down.
Yeah.
He's like, so what are you, like you a piper? The poorest instrument. Like the cheapest instrument you could get. And that's after he looks him up and down. Like that's a straight like smack in your face.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what are you gonna do about it? Like, just wham, slap. What are you gonna do? You're gonna do nothing. I like this Kellen dude. Fucking pimp shit, man.
Well, yeah, because he does go, folk music. Okay. Like, and he's just like,
now I get it. He's like, hold on. You play whatever. What was the type of lute? Where
Trooper's lute.
Oh, you play court lute? And he's like, my smile stiffened a bit despite my best effort. Trooper's lute. He said, laughing as if suddenly, if things suddenly make sense. Folk music. Oh, now I get it.
Oh, poor people music.
You're
okay.
just like a folksy fucking goofball. That's why you're wearing that nerd cloak. Everything makes so much sense now. Love this dude. He's fucking just crushing Kvothe in this interaction.
And Kvothe's like, well, I play the spoons too.
Yeah.
Well, so that's kind of where I was.
You haven't heard me play a jug of music. You haven't heard me blow into a jug yet.
Well, that's kind of where I was going with my original assumption that he kind of fucked up, because I thought his pride got him here, because he's like, oh yeah, well, I'm gonna fuck this dude up. I'm gonna show you how easy it is for me to fucking blow the nips off this entire room. But yeah, I guess it works out anyway. But it's interesting. It's really interesting. And Marie, fucking, well, I don't want to jump ahead too far, but because Dan's all about Kellen here.
Yeah, but yeah, that whole reaction though is phenomenal. And Dana is obviously, she's it shows you a little bit more about Dana. Like Kvothe mentions, you should learn how to play a harp, and then next thing you know, she's rolling on fucking McBigJawMoneyPants, who's a great music teacher, and he's able to teach her how to play the harp. Gets her in possession of a harp, teaching her how to play it. She's, putting on airs, playing the performance of like this, super high nobility woman who's like Kvothe is beneath her. Like, so like it shows you like how fluidly she can move through society, where she found a guy that can get her a harp, who can teach her how to play it, who's got a bunch of money, who's like high nobility. He's a high ranking person in Modeg, and she, who from a different culture, completely different culture. She can interact with him, she can mingle with him, she can get this dude wrapped around her finger and utilize him for exactly what she needs, just off of, hey, you should play the harp. Okay, I will finagle a situation where I learn how to play the harp in the perfect situation possible. And she's able to just, whatever she needs to do, she's able to do it. She's very, very resourceful.
Yeah, 100%. I like, so Kvothe also does his little, it's something that a guy in the friend zone would do. Not saying he's necessarily completely in the friend zone, but he does ask, so is he any good, with his hands, I mean?
Yeah.
The way he asks, where it's like, dude, what the fuck? And then, she kind of corrects him. He's like, he's been a perfect gentleman. But, that's the kind of question a guy that, like, is your, next door neighbor buddy would ask. Is he scoring with you? Are you letting him get in there? Because I'm here. I'm here.
How are his hands? Is he teaching you, some proper fingering? Yeah, that's some weak ass fucking tea right there.
Yeah, very soft.
Some weak tea.
And then and then you also get the like he hears, so what is he? Someone's second son? She gave a barely perceptible shake of her head, and a strand of her hair fell down to brush the back of my hand. He's a lord in his own right. Skaith to Rata Van, I swear. Lock up your sons and daughters. Denna laughed again quietly. Her body shook as she fought to hold it in. But yeah, you get the jealousy out of him. Like, mother, fuck this dude. Like, fuck. He's got everything. He's got looks. He's got money. He's got voice. He's fucking a musician. Like, oh, shit. Well, what am I competing with?
Well, and he says that initially, too, when he hears his voice, where he's like, fuck, this fucking guy?
Yeah.
And it kind of rang like Sim, where Sim's like, this is enough to hate a guy. Where it kind of rang like that, where it's like, oh, look at Kvothe getting all jealous here. But, hey, dude, you got that cloak? Pop that collar, dude. What's up?
Yeah.
Kvothe does fucking rise to the occasion, though.
Oh, yeah.
Despite his, the fact that he dresses like a nerd, that doesn't mean he actually is. Like once he gets on stage, he fucking blows the nips off of everybody.
Well, I was gonna
fucking massive shit pants moment.
I was gonna say we do get another one of those descriptions of Denna's smell when he's helping her look for the earring.
Yeah, that's that fucking road dirt.
Smell like wildflowers, autumn leaves, and the smell of her hair like road dust, that hot ass road dust, and the air before a summer storm.
I'm constantly telling girls like, "Oh God, you smell like road dust."
Well, before the storm, I was thinking he's kind of going in the like. What was he? Was he like doing a Mobb Deep thing? Is that what that was?
The Quiet Storm?
Would do what? Now?
Yeah, the Quiet Storm, like throwing them rusty ass gems and things.
Yeah.
Keeping it rough is, our motherfucking claim to fame. Yeah,
Maybe.
Yeah,
it's
Maybe
the
10.
real.
I'll give you maybe.
Do you know the reference? I think Fitz got it.
Yeah, it was super good.
I think Foxy Brown is on that. No, not Foxy Brown. Who's it? Lil' Kim.
On that one?
Yeah.
Maybe on the remake. The remake?
Well, yeah, she's on the chorus. But yeah. Okay.
You know what? Before he gets into playing his song, one of the other aspects that's interesting is this is where they give the great introduction to what a patron actually does and what he gets out of it. Where, like, Sim hears, that Threp has 4 musicians under him. He's a patron for 4 musicians.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's a wonder he can still afford to eat. Threp's account, but his holdings aren't really that extensive. Supporting 4 players on his income is a little extravagant.
Yeah, I like that he does this. So a couple things. What I've been talking about the book too, standing alone. This is an important thing that needs to be explained. But also, the whole patron issue does seem. It's one of those things that I need to be reminded of because it's like, but I get it. Yeah, Ambrose spoiled the well, but really, like, there's nobody out there, and Threp's this dude. Why can't? So the reminder, I think, is definitely important, and they do take the explanation further than what we had prior. So I think that's great, but also the utility that a patron gets out of having a musician in their stable, so to speak.
Yeah, Manette explains it well with the fact that, the patron can send out these musicians, these performers to all these little towns. They're wearing the same colors, as him. So they get the idea that they associate these colors with, performances, entertainment. And so that they associate that they're getting value out of these colors. So then when he sends the tax man wearing the same colors, then it's more like, well, I'm paying for these services that I'm getting from him, so that they feel like they're getting an exchange out of it rather than this dude's just coming in and robbing me.
Why does Sim know so much about Threp and his holdings?
Well, because I think that he's, nobility, and it's not like Threp's a secret, mysterious secret dude. So I think if you're in those circles of, noble classes where like they know about Savoy and how high up he is. They know about Ambrose and how high up he is and what kind of family he comes from. So it doesn't seem like it would be out of ordinary to know that Threp, what kind of position he is in. It's not like Threp's keeping it a secret.
So
the difference is Sim comes from that background, so he could look at a guy that is in a position like Threp and know what kind of income that could generate.
I was going to say,
whereas like Will might not understand like the amount of income those kind of lands could generate, whereas Sim is from that sort of family that has lands, so he can more readily understand the dynamic than say Will or Kvothe as far as like monetary generation.
Yeah.
So that brings up another question. So I guess because he describes it as it being extravagant on Threp's income. So am I right in thinking that his income is by owning land
Taxes.
that people get taxed on. Okay. Yeah, that's
Well,
what I
yeah,
was-
he says Threp's account, but his holdings aren't really that extensive. So he's basically saying, the amount of income that he would get from his income generating assets, which in this case sounds like holdings would be the land or, that income relative to someone who would be higher up than account supporting four players. That's extravagant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
like he's got people that are living on his holdings. He's taxing them, and then I'm sure there's a guy above him that's taxing Threp. So Threp, has to give some of the tax money, keeps going up, and it trickles on up. But yeah, he's making at least a partial amount of his income is coming from taxes for sure. Then we get a great one from Sim, like when he orders the drinks, like Sim and Grim as the serving boy arrive, leaving no doubt as to who was responsible for the glasses of blackberry brand set in front of each of us. Sim raised his glass in a silent toast and drank a solid swallow. I raised my glass in return, as did Willem, though it obviously pained him. Manette remained motionless, and I began to suspect he had dozed off. I love that aspect, though. Like, Sim basically ordered some fucking Coronas with grenadine in it. And Willem's like, Jesus Christ, this dude. His fucking girly drinks.
Every time I've had a Corona in the past, 6 months, I think about, hey, do you have any grenadine?
Did you try it yet,
so
Tim?
citrusy. It hurts my tongue.
Well, my buddy of mine I hang out with, he always has Corona with lime, and I'm always like, you sure you want that lime? It's pretty citrusy. Which really lands for someone who's never listened to what we're talking about. But
Right.
yeah, I don't give a fuck. It's funny to me.
But hey, then you got to explain it to him, and it becomes funny to him, Tim.
Yes. I've tried to make that clear to as many people as I can that the explanation of the joke is what's funny about the joke, right? I don't know why more comedians don't realize that. You want to break it down, spend the time to tell us how you got there, piece it together. That's the interesting part.
Yeah, and especially when they talk about how long it took them to get the timing of the joke right. That's really hilarious.
Yeah. Well, But
that's it for me on that chapter.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I guess they revisit Kvothe's poverty again, but yeah, we get that repeatedly mentioned throughout this chapter, where it's bringing that tension back. Why he's there, what he's doing, what he's trying to shoot for. The fact that we're about to get into admissions and he's on that delicate balance. But yeah, I mean, that's done throughout. So I was just it gets mentioned again right before we get to the end of it.
All right, then we'll move on to chapter 6, titled Love. Now, before Kvothe starts playing, he explains why he gets so horny while playing the lute. He intensely plays Bellwether, then casually plays Tim Tatatorum. After the set, Simon makes an excellent joke and thoroughly explains it to the reader's delight. Manette wins a date with Marie. Kvothe acts like an old whore to anyone who will buy him a drink. Later, they head back to the university. Kvothe moseys around for a little while before returning to the anchor for some shut-eye. Guys.
This whole chapter is just masterfully done. You get, in the beginning, where he talks about his little shabby case that he has for it. He couldn't afford a nice case, so he's got to, pad it with the rags and everything. But then he talks about, inside the case was something else entirely. Inside was the reason I was scrambling for tuition tomorrow. I had driven a hard bargain for it, but even then it cost me more money than I had ever spent on anything in my life. So much money I couldn't afford a case to fit it properly. And then he's like, it was hushed echo and bright string and thrum, my lute, my tangible soul. I have heard poets write about women. They rhyme and rhapsodize and lie. I have watched sailors on the shore stare mutely at the slow-rolling swell of the sea. I have watched old soldiers with hearts like leather grow teary-eyed at their king's colors stretched against the wind. Listen to me. These men know nothing of love. You will not find it in the words of poets or the longing eyes of sailors. If you want to know of love, look to a trooper's hands as he makes his music. A trooper knows.
Okay, so
he's got such a great way with words,
dude.
And I agree, but how can Kvothe be saying this and explaining this part of the story as Kote? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, if he knows that, why can he not get? How can he just leave it behind? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Kvothe's the one explaining this story to us. If he can explain his love for music in this way, and then turn around and say, you know, there's no music allowed at the end. I don't get it.
Well, I think there's a difference between he gets lost in his story versus the actual, like, once he's outside of the story, he's not living in the past, then he's living with, you know, what happened. It's similar to, like, he tells the story of what happened to his family, but once he's outside of that story, he has to go off and fucking balls into his arm, you know, balls by himself, just fucking starts crying like a little bitch. But
I think it speaks to how intense whatever happened was. Like, he's not the same, and he can still talk about it, remember it, but as soon as he's out of the mode of telling the story and remembering, he's back in, you know, he's Kote again. And so, like, and whatever happened, I mean, it just seems that part of him is shut down at the Waystone Inn. But what I find so impressive about this chapter is what you just described, how he describes the shabbiness of the loot case. It speaks so much to, he's a musician, he goes up there, the loot case looks shabby, he looks shabby, he's exposed, he's in a vulnerable state with all these people looking at him. However, we know who he is, and we know he's a performer at heart, and he's tremendous at what he's about to do. But it's still, I mean, Rothfuss does such a great job here of putting the loot in our hands. You know what I'm saying? Where he's like, he's on the stage, he's, there's that one. I love how there's one. The loot's tremendous, but there's one of the tuning force, whatever the hell you call it, that is a little bit loose. Right? Like just one of them, like those little types of things where it's like he's checking that, and, you know, he keeps describing what the loot looks like, what it feels like, how the neck's slightly bent but not bowed, and one of the pegs was loose and prone to changing its tune, and just all those little things, man. And then he's looking around and he's seeing familiar faces. Like, we're in that seat with Kvothe in that moment. And he does such a great job of building it with, like, how much he loves the song, how he's about to do what he's made in this world to do, what he was born into, what makes him feel alive. It's fucking tremendous, man.
Yeah, and then he's got the great line where he's like, you know, so yes, it had flaws, but what does that matter when it comes to matters of the heart? We love what we love. Reason does not enter into it. In many ways, unwise love is the truest love. Anyone can love a thing because that's as easy as putting a penny in your pocket. But to love something despite, to know the flaws and to love them too, that is rare and pure and perfect. And then he starts playing his song, and I love his. This is where, like, he makes up for, you know, being a huge nerd and looking like a shabby dork with his cloak in front of Kellen, where he's like, it was Bellwether, a tune shepherds have been whistling for 10,000 years. The simplest of simple melodies, a tune anyone with a bucket could carry. A bucket was overkill, actually. A pair of cup hands would manage nicely. A single hand. 2 fingers, even. It was plainly said, folk music. I love that aspect of where that guy came at him like, oh, folk music. And he's like, yeah, motherfucker, you want to see me play folk music? And then he plays Bellwether, and you get just another one of these masterful descriptions like that you get where he described Marie playing her song. He gives 2 masterful descriptions here. He looks up and he sees McChin Long Dickerson leaning close to Denna, making a dismissive gesture. He said, I smiled as I teased the song carefully from the strings of my lute, but before much longer my smile grew strained. Sweat began to bead on my forehead. I hunched over the lute, concentrating on what my hands were doing. My fingers darted, they danced, then flew. I played as hard as a hailstorm, like a hammer beating brass. I played soft as sun on autumn wheat, gentle as a single stirring leaf. Before long, my breath began to catch from the strain of it. My lips made a thin, bloodless line across my face. As I pushed through the middle of the refrain, I shook my head to clear my hair away from my eyes. Sweat flew in an arc to patter out along the wood of the stage. I breathed hard, my chest working like a bellows, straining like a horse run to lather. The song rang out, each note bright and clear. I almost stumbled once. The rhythm faltered for the space of a split hair. Then somehow I recovered, pushed through, and managed to finish the final line, plucking the notes sweet and light despite the fact my fingers were a weary blur. Then, just when it was obvious I couldn't carry on a moment longer, the last chord rang through the room, and I slumped into my chair, exhausted. The audience burst into thunderous applause, but not the whole audience. Scattered through the room of dozens of people burst into laughter instead, a few of them pounding the tables and stomping the floor, shouting their amusement. The applause sputtered and died almost immediately. Men and women stopped with their hands frozen mid-clap as they stared at the laughing members of the audience. Some looked angry, others confused. Many were plainly offended on my behalf, and angry mutterings began to ripple throughout the room. Love that description of, like, you know, he's just playing this fucking simple song and he's making it look like it's the hardest thing ever. And he's done such a masterful job of making it look like just a brilliant performance and just this extremely difficult performance that he's just pulled off masterfully, that people who don't know what's going on stand up and give him a thunderous applause, and then are fucking quickly brought back down by the laughter and fucking people hooting and hollering fucking because they know what's actually going on. It's fucking just, it's so unique. Like, there's nothing like this.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that for sure. It's very unique. I think I remember it like the first time reading it, I didn't really understand. Like, I'm kind of like with those people that were immediately standing up and applauding. I'm like, wait, what happened? Like, it helps that they go further to explain literally what happened. It becomes quite clear on the second song where it's just ridiculously difficult, and he's, you know, and we'll get there, I know, but yeah, it's great. It's so great because it does take you on that ride, and then you're kind of like, wait, what? Like, you're, at least for me, I'm trying to, again, put myself in the method or the seat of the first reader, where you're kind of like with bated breath, sort of wondering, hold on, so like what happened? But then luckily, before any serious discussion could take root, I struck a single high note, held up a hand, pulling their attention back to me. I wasn't done yet, not by half, and then boom. Goes
I
on
think
the next song.
That's half the brilliance of it, though. He makes you part of that audience, the audience who applauds his hard work on that song.
Yeah, it's so great. I mean, it reminds me of of course, I'm not going to remember the Lay of Sir Sabian Trailyard, where we had that moment, string breaks. I'm like, what the fuck? Looks at the crowd, or no, not even the string breaks, but when he's playing, when he doubles the refrain, and you're like, shit, is someone coming in? Someone coming in? Somebody gonna come in? And then boom, somebody comes in, and then boom, 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 it just keeps rolling with the song. But it's such a fucking great, tangible moment that you're there, it's so fucking great because you're in Kvothe, you're in the room, you're in the song, you're part of the audience. It's how the fuck do you do that? I mean, outside of literature, you can't put this in a fucking movie. You can't put this in a show. There's a chance here to do something really great in terms of, especially this one, because of theatrical, you know, it's a great opportunity for an actor, right? To ham it up on Bellwether and then 10 Torin, 10 or whatever. But the ability of the book to put us in Kvothe's position and then the audience position as well in both the instances that I just mentioned is fucking tremendous. And the reason why I bring up the Lay of Sir Sabian Trailyard, I get a similar feeling here where we're a little bit confused by the audience, which again, we're part of the audience. We're also Kvothe, but we're not, because we don't really understand what happened yet. And then he goes in the next song. And then we start to get it. And it gets fed to us slowly, surely.
Like he tells you like how he makes a big deal about how easy Bellwether is. Like, you play with, one finger, 2 fingers. Like, anybody could do it. And then, like, he goes into, then you're thinking, like, well, shit, man, he's doing something fucking special with it. But then when everybody's laughing, and then all of a sudden, then he goes in the next song and he explains how difficult it is. He's like, most importantly, it was perversely difficult to play. My father referred to it as the finest song ever written for 15 fingers. Made me play it when I was getting too full of myself and felt I needed humbling. Suffice to say, I practiced it with fair regularity, sometimes more than once a day. So then he goes into playing it, and you get all the great aspects of it, where it's clearly an extremely difficult song, but he is making it look ridiculously easy.
That introduction's so great. Like, how much does it make you want to hear this fucking song?
Yeah.
Like, I want to hear this. I love the title, Tentatornin, and then just like how difficult it's described. It's like, what the fuck would this sound like? Again, my mind kind of goes to like Flight of the Bumblebee type situation, something that just sounds like, how can someone play? Like, I think about like Django Reinhardt and shit, where it's like, how can someone even play this? How are you able to play something like this, where like trading notes back and forth so quickly? And the fact that he does it, and then like, I love the yawn, right? So like he like scratches his ear and does these theatrics, but the yawn, literally, it reminds me, it's kind of funny when my oldest was young. There was a book that was like, you go through it, this is a baby book, and the last page was always a baby yawning, and every fucking time it made me yawn. It was a picture of a baby yawning every fucking time. I'm like, this is insane, but it did it every time. And it's funny because he's like, he's feeling it coming, and then he just like lets it like rip his whole head apart. It was like this massive theatrical yawn while he's playing the most impossible song. It's just fucking great.
It's so great too, because he plays the folk music, after that guy made his dickhead comment about it, and then he plays it and makes it look super difficult, but this guy understands music. So then he gets to see him play something that hardly anybody can play. So not only like he first is like, he's just playing that, folk music, and then he knows what Kvothe's doing when he's hamming it up. And then he gets to hear him play something super difficult, and then he makes it look like the easiest thing that's ever been done. So then he's just got to realize, like, fuck, this dude's like on another level.
Well, and what's so perfect about it is he gave the example of what it should look like when someone plays this song. You should be sweating. You should be hunched over. You should be struggling through it, because he just did that with the simplest of songs. And then he plays the most difficult of songs and acts the way that it would be for from what they just saw. It's fucking, dude, it's so great. It's so, and again, like you said, unique. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. I've never, I mean, I can't think of examples of things like that. It's perfect too, because it's a musician playing for musicians. I mean, it plays on so many levels, and it's fucking genius, man. It's so tremendous.
The icing on the top is the fact that Lord Chennerton Long Donnerson III he understands that the music is extremely difficult. Like, he would know what Kvothe did. So like, after he's got this dismissive view of Kvothe, rightly so, because he's wearing that stupid cloak. So rightly so, he dismisses him. But then he learns the fucking truth, that underneath the nerd exterior is the baddest fucking dude on the planet.
I like to to give Kvothe the credit for the brilliance. It's obviously it's Rothfuss, but like you said, Tim, it's so unique and tremendous and profound. That's the thing about it. Like, I don't know where I've ever heard a story like this, where anyway, just such an interesting dynamic of this small part of the story.
Well, and it culminates so well because of who he is. Like, so, as he gets through it and he plays it as if it's so easy, at the end, he's like, I made no flourish. I simply stopped, rubbed my eyes a bit, no crescendo, no bow, nothing. Cracked my knuckles distractedly, leaned forward to set my loot back in the case. This time the laughter came first. The same people as before, hooting and hammering at their tables twice as loudly as before. My people, the musicians. I let my bored expression fall away and grinned knowingly out at them. That's the actor. That's the trooper. Without all the backstory, we don't fucking know that. We don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like, this doesn't play on page, 10 of book 1. You have to know, like, his background and what he's actually even capable of to what he's doing. It's just it's a fucking great culmination of so much that's built up to this point. Yeah, it's tremendous, man.
You also get, like, when he comes back to the table and Manette's like, good Lord, boy, you're like a tiny king here. And the head, Will and Sim are like, this isn't half as much as you normally see. Normally, fucking girls are throwing their panties at him. And it shows you, like, I mean, like, to a guy that's in there for the first time, he's like, holy shit, like, this is, like, these people fucking love you. And they're all, and you realize, like, well, half the audience didn't know what the hell was going on. So when he normally is just doing his thing, like, everybody is fucking creaming their pants.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good that they explain it in the way that they did to make it clear for the reader what literally did happen there. But yeah, it also makes me wish, like, I would read a lot more of just the performances. If Rothfuss just wanted to write them for fun, I'll read that shit.
Yeah,
it's
amazing.
Yeah, it's
really
so
is.
great, man. Like, I'm down, man. Play whatever. Play fucking Tinker Tanner. I want to hear it. I want to, I want to be able to experience those tunes. It's so great the way he writes music, and it's such a great testament to the accomplishment of the books, because I am to a degree a little bit, I guess I could say, disappointed that there's not more music because of how great he writes it. But there's nothing in the book that I'd be like, take that out.
No.
I mean, it consistently just continuously goes into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it's so great. And it's interesting because you mentioned Plum Bob. And I remember when I read this book again for the first time in a while, I remember texting you like, oh shit, man, we get in the Plum Bob fast. And things start to really take off on a whole new level. And it's great that he gives the reader he knows how well he wrote, The Lay of Sir Savian Trelliard. He knows how well he's able to write music for his readers, and to be able to give it to us in book 2 within the first 100 pages, it's fucking great.
Three separate songs. He does.
Yeah.
I mean, he does 3 separate songs just masterfully. I mean, every description of Marie's song, both Kvothe songs, I mean, they're brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, man. And again, that's what I was saying before. I want to spend more time, even in Anchors, when he does the when Dennett comes in and he leads the room in the song and then gets it going and gets it to move around. It's like, dude, I want to file this. I'll go get wasted there. Let's do this shit.
Yeah.
That's fun as fuck. I don't sing in public, but I will in this circumstance. Sounds great.
Yeah, you said it right earlier. It
Yeah.
makes you want to go see live music. It does.
Yeah.
You get another great Sim moment too, like,
Oh, dude, yeah.
when they find Marie and Stanchion kind of let everybody know what the fuck was going on, and then Simon comes in with the great joke. Technically, he played the joke on the lute. Everyone turned to look at him. His grin faded a bit. You see, he actually played a joke on a lute. He looked down at the table, his grin fading as his face flushed a sudden embarrassed red. Sorry.
I was like, I read that and I'm like, God damn it, how many times have I felt just like that on this fucking podcast?
Fantastic.
Look up and you two are
That's
just looking at me.
My note says Sim reacts as Fitz should. Embarrassment and apology.
Yeah.
That is what my note says.
I'm sorry.
Dude, Sim really takes it in the shorts, man. He gets hit hard with this, And then what's about to come up? I mean, he gets
he
hit pretty
comes
hard.
out looking like naive, tells a terrible joke, fucking spilling the beans.
Well,
yeah,
and then it gets worse.
I love these chapters for Sim, but yeah, it definitely it makes you love Sim, but also you love him because of he's such a jackass, like and an innocent jackass.
Yeah, yeah, man. But yeah, so one thing that is worth mentioning is we do get a word here that Ambrose is getting closer to the throne. That gets sort of peppered in here, I believe, on like the next page. Yeah, so
and not only that, it's the fact that the entire Surthan family was lost at sea 2 months ago, and then when Kvothe's ship goes down, they think Ambrose had something to do with it, and they mention like his family is associated with piratery or something along those lines, or something about, I can't remember it off the top of the head. We'll come upon it when the ship's, when he gets back to the university towards the end of the book, but it's mentioned that there's a reason that you could see that his family would have the ability to sink ships beyond just being able to hire someone to do it.
Yeah, that's good. Not even just foreshadowing; it's giving evidence.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it, as I was listening to it this time, I was kind of like, brought up again. Is Ambrose gonna, somehow reach the throne? Somehow,
Well, that
seems like a long way off.
That's definitely what I mean. That part, and then what you learn later, definitely makes you think that his family is wiping out the people in front of him.
Well, and we definitely know they have no qualms about it. At least based on Ambrose, they don't give a fuck. He doesn't give a shit. Dude.
So like I could picture a scenario where Kvothe kills Roderick, and that positions Ambrose's family onto the throne, and then he kills Ambrose, and then there's also, a civil war going. That power vacuum causes a civil war between Ambrose's family and the penitent king. I think there's very much a scenario where Kvothe kills Roderick and Ambrose's family tries to step in there, and Mayor Alvaron resists.
Yeah,
I like that. I hadn't teased that out in terms of specifics, but yeah, I could definitely. Man, I hope Ambrose gets murked. Really would enjoy reading that.
I think the person that he kills outside of, in Emery, where the cobblestones are shattered beyond repair, that's got to be fucking Ambrose.
Even wouldn't it be great even if like Ambrose dies like a ridiculous stupid, like he slips on a banana peel, falls out a window, and slams into those cobblestones. Yeah. That's his death. Some shit like that, man. Like he chokes on something, or like he impacted.
He's got some alchemical compound that he was going to throw on Kvothe, but he like slips on a banana peel and pours it on his head and slams into the ground.
Yeah, I'd like to see him. Yeah, people want to see him,
but everybody turns and thinks Kvothe did it, and they're like, "Holy shit! Look what he did!" No, I didn't do anything.
He called the name of explosives.
Yeah. Well, actually, that'd be speaking to Kvothe's, his showmanship. He just like tuck that chin up and walk off like, yeah, you saw what I did. But yeah. But
you get a great one too with Manette, with his reaction to Marie, like where he's like, "Marie, you intrigue me. Is there any chance I could buy you a drink and enjoy the pleasure of your conversation at some point?" And it was, he describes how the mismatch between those two, and you get like, I'm here with some friends right now. It might be late by the time I finish up with them. When matters makes no difference to me. I'm willing to lose some sleep if it comes that. I can't think of the last time I shared the company of women who speaks her mind firmly and without hesitation. Your kind are in short supply these days. And she's like, I've no desire to pull you away from your friends, but you're the first fiddler in 10 years to set my feet to dancing. It seems a drink's the least I can do. Marie smiled back at him, half amused, half wry. I'm on the second tier right now, but I should be free in, say, 2 hours. You're terribly kind. Should I come and find you? You should. And then, what the hell was that? He demanded. Manette chuckled into his beer and leaned back in his chair, cradling his mug to his chest. That, he said smugly, is just one more thing I understand that you pups don't. Take note. Take heed.
Manette dominated these two
like,
chapters.
That's fucking putting your fucking nuts on the line.
Well, and doing it well.
That is what you guys don't get. Well, Sim gets it, but, Sim just doesn't have any fucking charisma, which that fucking was just oozing charisma, where Sim has none of that. But that's charisma plus nuts on the line equals you get to go fucking shoot your shot.
Yeah. Yeah, he knows how to talk to women. Or just talk to people. I mean, don't get all fucking scared and fluttery and just, oh, your eyes are so, and I love your ears. Just fucking talk to her, dude. Give her a couple compliments. Ask her out, bro.
He laid the compliments
well,
on
like,
too
you get Sim's pussyfooted way of trying to ask a girl out, where he's like, what would you say, if I, would you consider it if I asked you out? And she's like, I'd consider it. Not for very long. But he gave that fucking weak ass, like half foot in, half foot out.
Yeah.
Like, let me ask you without like really asking you, so that if you reject me, I don't really feel the sting of it. Like, it's like, no, Manette jumps straight into the fucking water. He's not half foot in, half out. He just jumps straight in. Like, see what fucking happens.
Yeah, and speaking of Sim, he blows up Kvothe's spot. Fucking jackass. Yeah. But, to set it up, I mean, the whole thing is Kvothe's like, man, I'm not gonna fuck with Ambrose anymore. There's no point in it. It's bad for me. It's bad, it's bad for me in many ways. Nobody's getting better out of this. And then it's interesting. It says a lot about Sim because he's such a nice person and genuine, but he hates fucking Ambrose. And he's just like, nah, fuck that. You owe him, or, you're not even with him, whatever. But then, it just blows him up like, you dropped that pound of rancid butter down his chimney. You loosened the cinch on his side. I was like, dude, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing, man?
Yeah.
So now Manette knows this. Anyone here knows that. He just flushes, gets embarrassed.
He does it constantly too.
Yeah.
He does it. He does it in the first book. He does it here. He's gonna do it again. And not very much longer. He does it again, where he fucking keeps just constantly spilling the beans. Like he does it when he's in the hospital room after like fucking himself up, falling off the roof at Ambrose's place. And then he passes out, and Kilvin brings him to the Medica. And then, like, he makes up some bullshit excuse for why he's there. And then when Sim comes in with Mola standing there after he just lied to Mola, Sim comes out and just immediately blurts out the real truth that, he was trying to get his ring back for his fucking sweetheart, his little lady. And he's like, motherfucker, you constantly are blowing up my fucking spot. What are you doing?
Well, Rothvis, being the guy that he is, does give him his just desserts by having him drink piss. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Dude, this cracked me up. I forgot about it because it's kind of a small thing. But unless you're Sim, you're not going to forget you found out you drank piss. But yeah, that's fucking great, man. Their whole back and
drink actual piss, but
it tasted like sweet pickles and piss.
Yeah,
I think they're feeding him piss because they're trying to keep him from ordering it.
Why would they do that to their customers?
Well, what they said here was,
and they charge a shitload for it.
Well,
they just pee in a cup and they charge. It was more expensive than you thought. It's because it's fucking really pee.
Well, they're trying to keep him from ordering it, so they're pissing in his drink. Sim's drinking piss, and he's paying too much for it. So there you go. How else are you going to keep this system going? The stripper drink system, you got to keep it solid. So, pissing a few drinks.
Yeah, it's more evidence of how much Rothfuss has hung out at strip clubs is that he makes
Absolutely.
a special deal about fucking the whole stripper drink fucking thing.
Which by the way, they did find a really nice way to, again, reiterate that. And then also, re-explain it in a way where, so now Manat's involved, but he's in on it. He understands it while some other people don't. And then, it's kind of nice to be able to play that out.
Yeah, and
Andy, I was going to say, he does also point out Kvothe's getting screwed. So it actually helps Kvothe.
Yeah, that's what I was going to point out.
Yeah. So it's like a third, what is it?
Getting screwed then.
Yeah.
The barman should get his piece from the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Split it 3 ways. Yeah. So, and then we do get that right at the end where I believe it's here where Kvothe talks to the guy at the bar for a minute to like settle something up.
He says, before we left, I stopped to have a discreet word with the barman where I brought up the difference between a half and a third. At the end of our negotiation, I cast out for a full talent and 6 shots. The vast majority of that was for my drinks, from my fellow musicians. My fellow musicians had bought me. I gathered the coins into my purse, 3 talents even. And then one thing I think that it's really interesting is the beards
I was
that
gonna
he gets is Braden beard.
I love that. Yeah, I was going to mention that. Go ahead.
And it's like Braden, Will said, his voice thick with disdain is closer to bread than beer. I'm curious, like, if Braden is like, the actual character Braden, if that's a fake name, which I bet it is. I bet that he's not actually Braden. But what I mean, it just seems like it's weird that the beer is Braden and then that character's name is Braden. Like it seems like there might be something there. I don't know what it could possibly be, but it just kind of seems like a weird thing that's in there, that the beer is called Braden and then that character who I think is her patron is also named Braden.
That's not what I was going to point out. But that's actually a connection I should have made. That's one of those things we talked about before where it's like something that's kind of obvious right in front of you and didn't even make the connection. I was just going to say I like the idea of this, that he can, this is the perfect thing he can give Auri, or they can have together. But yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I mean, because of the connotation of it is it's nutrient rich, right? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't. I don't know. That doesn't really speak to analogously.
Tastes like shit, but it's good for you. It's like medicine. It's like Braden.
His games with him, tastes like shit, but is helpful, I guess.
Yeah,
I like Will's, razzing him about it. Like, we don't judge you. Even though you're a pregnant woman.
Yeah, in the in the small kingdoms, women drink it when they're pregnant. Yeah, and then Will is like, he's like, Sim, Kvothe, we don't judge you. Sim and I don't mind that you're a pregnant Eolish woman.
That reminds me of like, what are you drinking? Cranberry juice. What are you on your period?
Yeah.
Oh, it's fucking classic.
Yeah. Will's always got, fucking Sim orders his, Corona with the grenadine in it, and Willem fucking checking him on that. Willem's always checking him. He's got the typical fucking hard ass guy routine with other guys.
He's very consistent with it. Yeah, he's very consistent with it. It happens a couple times in this chapter. Which is a perfect play off of Sim, because Sim doesn't have that. He's the naive, nice guy, while Willem isn't not a nice guy. He's always, fucking poking him in the ribs, fucking with him. Which,
well, you also get there's one part where Kvothe comes back to the table and, Sim's a little bit drunk and he's got this, this happy fucking goofy smile on his face where he can, getting a little red in the nose where he can see Sim's getting drunk. And then he looks at Will and he's like, Will was, had that expressionless look on his face where you couldn't fucking tell what the fuck was going on behind his eyes.
Yeah, it seems like that's consistently the case with Will.
Yeah. He keeps his shit more together. He's more, He's more like a rock. It's actually it goes back to where Denna, the first time she meets them, where she's like, Sim's like a boy splashing in a brook, and Will is like a stone, fucking solid stone or something along those lines. I can't remember how she describes him, but
yeah, I remember. I do remember it was a very apt description, but yeah, it was like he's stoic while the other one, yeah. Sam, I think you nailed 100% what she said. But yeah, it is something where it's just like he's stoic and level.
Yes, he's definitely very stoic. But he's got a great personality too. He's not, he's not stuffy.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's very direct. I mean, he's very honest and direct with Kvothe and tells him like it is. And that's what I like about Manette as well. Where Simon, when he's going to be honest with Kvothe, he like kind of flowers it up, or kind of brings, he kind of is careful in how he's going to tell him what the truth is. Except for when he's going to say it in public, things that you don't want to be said. Then he's brash. Yeah. He just lets it right out.
Yeah, fucking total jackass. The only other parts I had on it is you get the reminder, which is a clear reminder. Last was the archives, 5 stories tall and windowless. It reminded me of an enormous waystone. He says that, at least twice or 2 or 3 times in book 1, and then he makes a point of it again. There's clearly it's a fucking waystone. It has something to do with the waystone. Like we've speculated, that behind the 4-plate door is where the King Phasia is, and also King Phasia could be in the Feyreanial.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's clearly something to the fact that the archives is like a giant waystone, greystone. Yeah. I think there's something to that.
It does definitely seem to be the case as we piece more and more of these things together.
Why would he keep reiterating it if there's not something to it?
Yeah. Why would you mention it multiple times?
I mean, it's not because waystones are clearly monumental. Like it's not like he's just like it's very tall and it's the tallest building in the world. And like that, okay, there would be nothing to that. He would just be something, just reiterating a fact. But he keeps reiterating that it looks like a waystone, and waystones are huge. I think that's significant that he keeps pounding that into our head.
Yeah, no question about it. It's and I may not pick up on it until you guys say it, but now that we've talked about it, not today, but prior to this episode, when I read it this time, I'm like, oh yeah, it's got to be something. There's and we know it anyway because with the 4-plate, or we believe it anyway because with the 4-plate door and Auri living underneath there and all that stuff. So
yeah. It feels like it's in your face when you go through and do like what we're doing, where we go through all the theories and we really hammer that out. But it's easy to like just kind of read through. Like the first time you read these books, you don't pick up on it. It's just another line in the story and you just roll right past it. But it's once you like start picking apart everything, start putting all the pieces together, then all of a sudden, like, why does he keep saying this? Why is this, why is this reiterated so many times?
Well, and especially when you connect the mystery of the 4-plate door and then all the things that are sort of insinuated about all the mystery that's within the archives and the history of the university. Yeah, it seems like something crazy went down a long time ago, and the best way to keep that shit locked away was surrounded by a bunch of powerful people. It's kind of the way I look at it, and that's what the university started as. And it was like, well, while we're keeping this thing locked away, what are we going to do? And then they started, playing sympathy games.
Keep people out of Feyreanial, where you can fucking teleport anywhere in the world, basically.
So I mean, but what I mean is like you have all these powerful arcanists, and they're all studying together, and then train the next one, and train the next one, and train the next one, and this becomes a university after so long, you know.
Yeah. Another aspect of the archives is just that it's Kvothe's desire to go there, his main desire to he dreams about seeing all those books, and then after his parents die or get murdered, he wants nothing more than to get in there and start learning about the Chandrian. And when he's at the university, he wants nothing more to get in there. So, you have our protagonist, and his arc, his whole desire boils down to getting into the archives and being in there. So it's got to have it's got to be more to it than what it seems.
And then he's intensely drawn to this door. What is this door? What's behind this door? What is it?
It would make sense that, like, if you got a place like Reread, and let's just say that, the archives is like a giant waystone, and the 4-plate door is your way to get into Reread. And so, like, where you have Reread, where it's like an access point to where you can go anywhere in the Fae or anywhere in the world. You could travel to any different waystone in the world. So you can travel. It leads to all roads. And so you could see a scenario where, like, the place you can go that leads to all roads, that people would funnel there. That would be a place where everybody would congregate, in a place that all these powerful people would congregate. You could see where that would be where a university would be created. That would be like the perfect spot to create a university for powerful people. It's right by, a portal that leads everywhere. So you could see how a university could be built there, if that is an access point to Reread.
That actually makes a lot of sense. That, if it's the crossroads, the pivot point, or whatever you want to call it, right there in the middle of all those, that they would put that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I was going to say, because it hadn't occurred to me that it's ever been mentioned before, but he mentions as they're going through the university, I went past the Crucible. Its countless bristling chimneys, dark and largely smokeless against the moonlit sky. Even at night, it smelled of ammonia and charred flowers, acid and alcohol, 1,000 mingled scents that had seeped into the stone of the building over the centuries. Is that where alchemy is done, the Crucible?
Sounds like it, yeah. Sounds like it.
Yeah, I was just wondering because it hadn't been mentioned, so it just kind of jumped out at me. Plus by process of elimination, kind of think, is that where that's going down? And I guess it is.
Yeah, you would assume. I mean, that's the assumption. And then you get the fact, you get a little bit of foreshadowing here, because when he's like, gets to his room and he's like, finally home, and he's like, and it's weird to, feel like, you have a room in a place that's your home. He's like, it's weird for me to feel that because I'm used to traveling. And then, he's like, it was an odd feeling, this fondness for a place. In some ways it was comforting, but the rue in me was restless, rebelling at the thought of putting down roots like a plant. As I drifted off to sleep, I wondered what my father would think of me. And it's a nice little subtle touch in there that starts putting in your mind that this dude needs to leave the university.
Yeah, shit's about to
change.
He
needs to go somewhere else to get you, so that you're not, disappointed that he's leaving. That it's just putting in your mind that this dude needs to leave to be who he is. He needs to get the fuck out of there.
It's interesting because, I mean, that's a very, very great way to do it, because a large part of readers are thinking, why the fuck would he leave? I mean, he's killing it, right? He's on his path. He's going to continuously advance himself. He's doing so great, when in actuality, well, the ruin him, and what he puts there with his father and that whole thing, it's like the natural course for him now would be to leave. And what serves the book so well is that he does, and then what we end up getting to is tremendous. And that's one of those things we've talked about before, where it's every time you're in a place for a certain period, you almost get to the point where you're like, oh, so this is what the book is, then it's not.
Yeah.
And then there's a twist. There's an inciting incident of sorts that moves us into something else, and that's about to happen. And I remember it hitting me like, oh shit, very surprising. Again, on these multiple rereads, he's just a master, dude. Like this mention right here, what you just mentioned about his father, on a multiple reread, that's just, to me, that even reads like a wink to the reader that reads closely. That Rothfuss is like, that's for you. I was telling you this was about to come. Remember that? And you get there. It's cool, man. He's masterful with this shit.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a decent book. It's a decent start to book 2. Then we roll into the next chapters are fucking great because we get the Plum Bob right after this, which is some of my favorite shit. Like his interaction with that little girl who's like kind of standing in line waiting, and he fucking's like coming up to her, and he's just being very blunt about like, this is bullshit. Why are we wasting our time with this? Fucking this teacher doesn't know shit about me. Like, why should he have any equal say in my tuition? And he's just speaking so bluntly and so loudly, and this girl is just like, dude, get the fuck away from me. Like, what are you doing? You're gonna get us both in trouble, you psycho. It's fucking great. And then his reaction with Sim, his reaction with Fella. I love this next chapter so great.
Plum Bob sounds like a Humpty Dumpty.
In what way?
Bob shaped like a plum.
Oh.
Sounds like a dude shaped like a plum whose skin tone is pretty ruddy.
My plump bobs. My double D plump bobs.
So I was saying plum, not plump.
Well, Dan was saying plump. Double D.
Show
Dan.
me your bobs.
Or you could go with plum, like with a B at the end. So Plum Bob. So it's literally to hold even keel, right? To show level. It's a leveling apparatus. That's what a plumb bob is. A plumb bob.
A plumb?
Right?
Tim, got it.
Tim doesn't give me Google show me your bobs.
You know what?
You will get the joke that I just
you know what? A plumb bob, APLUMB, a plumb bob is also even Steven.
There you go.
See what I did?
What? How is
in the
that
water,
even Steven?
Or
you just making stuff up?
Yeah, I did. I just crafted a beautiful thing for you.
Explain it to him, Tim. Explain it to him.
Did not enjoy it. I don't even get it.
He's got to explain it for it to be funny.
It's like a buoy. It's like a buoy. That's what a plumb bob is. It's a buoy.
Those aren't buoys.
So buoys are even Steven?
Well, because it's a plum. A plum is bringing it to a level playing field.
Well, this is one of the only times that explaining the joke made it worse.
What are you talking about? This is fantastic. This is artistry. I'm weaving a tapestry for you right now.
You're the next Rothfuss, Tim. You're the next Rothfuss.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, intricate. All right, I'm not going to romanticize it. I'm going to over-romanticize. Now you got
jokes as well as Rothfuss explains music.
Now you have me over-explaining it, and you know what? You ruined it. You ruined it.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, and you ruined it. You're rotten.
Well, the saving grace is like anybody who's never Googled "show me your bobs," they're gonna get to laugh their ass off.
I've never seen it.
Is this one of the funniest memes on the internet?
I've never seen it. Let me ask you this: you say "laugh your ass off." Is this a shit your pants type moment?
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay.
Fucking throw up a butt plug because fucking it'll get dangerous. You look that shit up.
Trim the front of your shirt up so that you can blast your nips.
Yeah.
Well, what you could do is just take off the
You
shirt.
better be, if you're wearing a button-up shirt, you better unbutton it because nips are about to get blasted off.
Do the George Costanza, take off your shirt, go sit on the toilet, and Google what Dan's talking about.
Yeah.
Show
You'll
me
be
your
okay.
bobs. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do it.
Yeah. That's
Get my shirt
actually the perfect way to listen to our podcast. It's the safest way.
Unhindered.
No encumbrances.
Oh, man.
That's good, man. That should be a label. That's a label on the homepage. This is a recommended approach to listening to the podcast. Shirtless.
Just have a link. We'll just have a link to that clip of George.
Well, shirtless because those nipples are going to be blasted, and then also sitting on the toilet because you're about to shit your fucking pants.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what they need? You just need to have a cloak on only, but an open cloak.
I wonder, maybe that's another product, a cloak that drapes over the workings of the toilet.
Yeah, over the back.
Think about that.
Yeah, I like it.
Or the hole cut in the back of it, in the bottom back, where you can so you can sit down. You got the comfort.
Oh.
So when you're sitting on that porcelain, you got some cushion.
Assless cloak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, maybe
assless cloak.
you know what? Maybe you don't need an assless.
It's like a
Suddenly-
tuxedo with tails.
Suddenly,
Guys,
Kvothe's not such a dork, is he?
maybe you could just have a pocket specifically designed for when you shit your pants. You shit your cloak. It's just a pocket that catches it.
Oh my goodness!
Oh,
So
gross.
here's all right.
You just ruined it.
So consider
No, it's a
consider
special pocket. It's lined. You don't ruin the cloak.
no. Consider a shade, right? So this is weaved by the Fae, and what happens is the poop, whatever you drop in this pocket, ends up in the Fae.
Ah.
So there's an area in the Fae just covered in shit.
It's where Bast lives.
The seventh male? Is that or
Yeah.
Telwith, whatever. Telwith male? It's real,
Bast,
it's real poopy there.
Bast like Shawshanks his way out of the Fae through Kvothe's shit pocket. That's how he comes into the world. Kvothe meets Bast.
Reshi means shit.
Yeah.
I would love to find out in book 3 that this entire time Bast has been affectionately referring to Kvothe as shit.
Shit master.
Oh goodness. Well, there you go.
Oh man.
I like that we got there. I don't know how we got there, but that's where you get.
All right. Well, that's a good spot to end it as fucking any.
Good luck. Good luck with your pursuits and Googling what Dan said and doing that shirtless and pooping.
Yeah. Shove that down your fucking face.
Good luck in your endeavors.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, guys.
All right. Fucking peace out, folks.
Bye-bye.